Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lorebeards 40,000. Beep boop. It's time for the machine cult.
I'm doing my best manipulous stance.
Oh,
Ross,
man.
do you want to hear something funny about the tech priest manipulous?
Oh, I want to hear it all.
Okay, did you know that its nickname is Dr. Robotnik? Okay,
Okay.
because the
Amongst
way it
the
sits in its little body and everything. Did you know in the Mechanicus 2 video game that when you do the blessings of the Omnissiah through it does the exact hand signs for Fireball Jutsu from
really
Naruto? Yeah,
no
it goes
shit.
hit, 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 and then I'm
Ha.
just like, "Are you? That's Fireball Jutsu. Hold on, I'm a nerd." And I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Can you show
And
us
not
a
only
picture of one of these guys?
yeah, I can grab a picture of it really quickly.
That is wild. Man, somebody slipped one past Games Workshop there, and they gave him the same finger movements as Naruto. Welcome,
I
everybody.
I personally think they did it on purpose. I think they were just cool with it.
My experience says that they are not typically cool with that. So I feel like it was probably something that got slipped through. There he is. Yeah, look at this boy. Look
So
at
they
him.
changed his fingers from this to this in the game. So he's always doing the hand signs.
Nice.
I love it. I love this
Nice.
so much. It's such a cool model too.
The
Oh,
the art and miniatures for the tech priests have usually always had this kind of elements of body horror to it. So kind of excited.
but today, we are talking about Adeptus Mechanicus.
Woo!
Ross, what happens when you get body horror mixed in with cowboys and also Leonardo da Vinci? That's right, you get the tech priesthood of Mars. Rock'em sock'em robots shooting pistols with archaeocopters. It's a mix of Dune and everything else that you love from sci-fi, yet somehow slightly different, and I absolutely love it. Somehow they made it their own without it being too silly or too dumb.
Well, I mean, there's plenty silly in 40K, which is honestly some of my favorite parts. And I'm glad that we're going to be able to touch on those elements that apply to the Mechanicus as well today. Uh, it's going to be great. Welcome everybody to the Forges of Mars, where knowledge is sacrament, maintenance is liturgy, an improperly lubricated bolt may be one missed prayer away from technological heresy. That's because today we're talking about the Adeptus Mechanicus, the red-robed priesthood. They build, repair, sanctify, monopolize, and when necessary, destroy the machinery of the Imperium of Man.
One of my favorite things ever is that a lot of Imperial Guard regiments do know how to do field maintenance to their vehicles and everything. They
Yep.
just don't do it around tech priests.
The books, let me see, I think there one's called Demolisher and one's called Fear to Tread, and they're both about a tank crew. And yeah, one of their guys has some understanding of the ways of the machine when they repair it, which is pretty cool.
Do you know what it's called when your machine's not working and you need to apply force to it in order to get it to work?
Go ahead. What is it?
It is called the technical knock, and it
That's
is a prayer.
that's right.
You pray and then you slap it to get
That's
it
exactly
to
right. It's part of the religion around machines, because the tech priests of Mars, they are the keepers of humanity's ancient technological inheritance, and they are the masters of the Forge Worlds and the Manufactoria. They are the reason that the Imperium can field all the las guns and battle tanks and starships and titans and every other possible thing required to keep this galaxy spanning empire operational. But the fun part is they don't really understand any of it.
No, no. And there's a good chance that all of their knowledge is stored in a Votan on Mars, which is really funny.
Well, in our greatest 40K mysteries, we actually discussed a little bit about the Dragon of Mars and the Void Dragon and whether or not they're the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we will be touching a little bit on that as well today. But if you want to hear us go deep on that particular mystery, which frankly, like, there's so many things about the tech priest, we could probably find almost any sub chapter or sub-faction of the group and make a whole episode about it. And we might, we might. We did one on Ark and Land, right? And we're probably going to do one on Belisarius Call. See,
yeah, we have to.
The Adeptus Mechanicus, they're not just the tech faction. It is like a state within a state, a religion within an empire that already has a religion, and a military industrial civilization. And they just, the line between science and ritual, engineering and blasphemy, it's been blurred beyond recognition over 10,000 years, over more than 10,000 years.
I have and I want to see if you disagree with this, but the fantasy equivalent of the Mechanicum would be the Skaven.
I mean, they're not that dissimilar. Specifically, Clan Scryer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, the Admech have been known to blow up a moon or two.
That's true. We should introduce ourselves because actually I forgot to do this when I was on with Sotek earlier this week.
Now no one knows who he is.
Right? No one knows who I am. No one knows who he is. We're all anonymous. Who are you, Norn Queen Alexis?
So, hi everyone. My name is Norn Queen Alexis. I am a YouTuber, a Viking reenactress, a painter of all kinds, and I fell into the rabbit hole that is Warhammer 40k, and I am still stumbling down the infinite staircase of it.
I love that description. That's a good one.
Ross, who are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Ross Watson. I am a game designer and author. I wrote a whole bunch of stuff for the Warhammer 40k roleplay line. I worked on several 40k video games and was on part of the US White Dwarf team for a few years. You probably would know me from things like Death Watch, the Inquisition and Dark Heresy, and Rogue Traders, because I wrote a whole bunch of material for all of those things. And yeah, we're talking about the worshippers of the machine god today.
Now, we do have to talk about one thing really quickly. Earlier lore for the Adeptus Mechanicus, and we are going to be covering this, does not really match too well with current lore Adeptus Mechanicus. Adeptus Mechanicus is an army that has been retconned multiple times. You'll hear this a lot from us, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out different editions of the game of Warhammer 40k have had entirely different stories. Originally, the Adeptus Mechanicus were just like almost equivalent to like Imperial Guard, but tech priests. Everyone was just a tech priest. Skitarii didn't exist yet. Skitarii were a knight household thing, but then they weren't anymore. They went through a lot of changes. And the Adeptus Mechanicus that we know today and that we are going to primarily talk about today are not the equivalent of those back in 3rd and 2nd edition of Warhammer.
It was pretty awesome when they threw open the vaults and actually allowed Adeptus Mechanicus to become a faction in the tabletop, which it hadn't been for a very, very long time. I remember when the only Adeptus Mechanicus figure that you could buy for your Imperial Guard army was an Engine Seer, and that was about it. There were like these special skulls tech priests that you could get from mail order, but those are extremely rare. So
yeah, those are also stupid hard to get because you couldn't get those in the US.
They were a very special thing that only very few people got. I don't know if you have any of them. I don't.
I think I have one. Like, that's it.
Now, these guys, they're called tech priests because they worship a machine god, and they have named the emperor the Omnissiah, and they believe that a thing called the motive force gives animation to all things.
Which isn't entirely wrong, because the spark of life is actually something that keeps us running, and human bodies do run on electricity.
Yeah, it's
so they're technically not wrong. I do think that the Adeptus Mechanicus is the perfect satire of Warhammer. They skirt that line of just silly enough, but satirical enough that they fit. Continue, Ross.
Oh, no, I was just going to say they replace their weak flesh with blessed steel. They speak in binaric code. They store their brains in jars. They turn criminals and workers into servitors, and they treat the recovery of even a half-corrupted instruction manual from the Dark Age of technology as a major archaeological find, a theological revelation, and a strategic weapons program all at the same time.
In fact, there's actually a pretty famous story at this point of a person who discovered the STC for the standard issue guard knife, and he was given an entire planet for it.
That's right.
And
Ugh.
it's not like they couldn't make those. They definitely could. It's just for some reason, like the Mechanicus is so anti-innovation that even if they have the idea for it, they view that idea that they had for making something as a heretical thought or a test of the Omnissiah.
Well, that does tend to vary by Forge World and some subgroups, but by and large, generally, you're correct. That is, they don't think innovation is a good thing.
Yep.
And they have possibly the most complex order of battle of any Imperial faction.
Nah, nonsense, Ross. How complex could it be?
Well, a standard army list for the Adeptus Mechanicus could plausibly involve irradiated cyborg infantry, winged flamethrower cultists, spider-legged tanks, robot cohorts controlled by sacred punch card brain wafers, knights, walking cathedrals armed with city-killing guns, and an archaeotech recovery fleet whose mission statement is effectively just, let's go find the ancient superweapon, determine whether it's holy, and then deploy it before anyone else can steal it.
You're not even getting to the fact that they have every Imperial Navy ship at their disposal.
I mean,
they have the Arc Mechanicuses, which are described, or at least one is. All of them are unique. All Arc Mechanicuses are unique, but one of them was described as being the size of a continent.
Is that the Speranza? That's the really special one. The Speranza is super special.
Now, keep in mind, the smallest continent is Australia. And Earth continents, Terra continents in the lore, Terra doesn't have an ocean. They just see the fault lines. So that means that thing is the fault line length. That thing can't go near planets without causing catastrophic damage.
Or it can, as long as it's got Arkan Land's gravity stuff on board. But
yes. I do love the excuse of it's gravity tech. We don't need to explain. Gravity tech. It's kind of like how Marvel is just like, where do they put their helmets? Nanobots. I don't need to explain shit. That's not how nano machines work. Does every single character in Marvel have like entire data centers just to function all these nano machines? No. All right.
So everybody engage your new sphere uplinks. Apply the approved quantity of sacred unguents and oils, and make certain your local machine spirit has been properly appeased. Because tonight we're going to enter the forge temples, the data vaults, the rad wastes, and the impossible machinery of the Adeptus Mechanicus, the priesthood of Mars. Alexis has been chomping at the bit to tell you about some of the cool, crazy stuff that she's learned while researching this. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
About the order. I got to talk about my favorite vehicle in the entirety of the Adeptus Mechanicus in the history of forever. Ross, have you ever just wanted to shake apart an entire mountain range?
Ooh, yes, I have.
Everything in the straight line almost to the back of your own vehicle.
Is this a seismic cannon?
In fact, if you shoot it if you don't aim it just right, you accidentally hit your own vehicle from the back and destroy it.
Oh my god.
We are talking about the Ordinatus.
Right, oh my god, God, it's a subgroup. I've got the list here. That is
the Ordinatus is a subgroup and a vehicle.
The Centuria Ordinatus is the organization, and they oversee these things called Ordinatus engines. They are part of, but not the entirety of, the Ordo Reductor. The Ordo Reductor is different, even though it is kind of overall the Centuria Ordinatus.
Ordo Reductor. Thulia, I'm with you, girl. I want to kill all the enemies of the Imperium by shaking them to death. Literally grabbing them and just shaking them to death.
Like a baby. Like a baby you don't want to cry anymore.
This thing is so crazy powerful that entire armies surrender when it turns towards them. Like, armies break and flee and run during the heresy when this thing is firing. It's so powerful. It does not matter what you are. It's so strong. It disrupts demons' connections to the material plane. Now, granted, most of that lore is ancient, unfortunately. It hasn't really been in newer lore since, but it's a cool vehicle and I love it.
Oh no, it's around. I mean, Ordinata stuff is definitely around.
It's around, but the lore that I'm talking about is very, very old. It predates a lot of the Heresy novels, but it's really
Okay,
cool and I absolutely
that
love
is
it.
true. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I've got an
But we
image I
do,
can throw up on the screen if you want.
yes, throw this thing up. And
Okay,
this thing
well,
varies in size, and all of them are different.
yeah, this is not necessarily the same Ordinatus that you're talking about, to be clear.
Yeah.
Let me throw the share screen and window, and there it is. Boom! That is what one Ordinatus may look like, and that's like a small one.
Yep. This one doesn't have the seismic cannon on it.
No, this is something else, but this is an example of what an Ordinatus engine looks like.
Yep. Oh, do I love it. It is. Ooh. But we have some super chats. Let's get these, and then let's go on into the history of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Can you tell I'm
Fair enough.
excited about this?
Yeah, I am too. Necromancer Kobold says, I have spent the last 12 hours reciting the proper canticle, gathering the oils and engines. Hey, this guy was prepared. This stream is now blessed by the machine god and the motive force. Glory to the Omnissiah. Thank you, Necromancer Kobold.
Heck yeah, let's go. Blessings.
Sign of the cog.
Yeah. And then the one-handed cog is this.
Oh my god. It gets crazy. All right. And Elemental Exposure. Thank you very much. He says, our character for our next Let's build involving Cogboys, Majos Drumnos Tam Tam, foremost expert in percussive maintenance and the holy technical knock.
He uses a giant omniscient axe that has a hammerhead at the back of it, and the hammerhead's nickname is tech support.
Just a little tap will do it. Pumpkin Historian, he says, are there different denominations within the cult of Mechanicus? Yes, it is. The Tech Priests of Mars are not one monolithic organization. They are 1,000 cults in a red trench coat. How does each Forge world's culture, history, and politics affect their interpretation of the machine god and the cult's theology? Yes, all of those things affect their interpretation, and each Forge world has a slightly different view on the theology.
In fact, I'm going to talk a lot about Stygian 8 because that happens to be one of my favorites, because they view the pursuit of knowledge, even those that are deemed heretical by their brethren, they deem it as so important that it does not matter if it falls into the heretical, the heretical mindset. So long as they use it and purify themselves afterwards, it's totally fine. It's totally fine.
It's important to point out that tech heresy is distinct and separate from regular heresy in the Imperium. So, and I can talk a little bit about that. One of the things I study a lot in 40K is tech heresy, so I can speak pretty authoritatively on some aspects of what is considered tech heresy. Although, again, Pumpkin Historian, what is considered tech heresy may in fact vary from Forge World to Forge World and from group to group. So
Ross is an expert on tech heresy because he commits so much.
I have done a few, yes. Scutari Boy, hey, wow, I'm so glad you're here, Scutari Boy. The best faction in all of 40K. I'm shocked that you would think so. Personally, I'd say better than at least all the Imperial ones combined, but I may be biased.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
This is the part of the show where I say super chats are the absolute best way to keep more Lorebeards content coming your way, and it directly affects both the channel and the host. We're very grateful to everyone who chooses to support us with the super chat. All right. Oh, hi, Veins. Welcome. We've got a good group here today. So, Alexis, I could begin at the beginning, or
so in the beninging. You got that meme.
Yes.
So, Ross, I want to talk about the outside history first from a designer's point of view and how it affected the development of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take like 3 minutes to do this. Okay, are you ready? And if I don't fill in the full 3 minutes, then I'm gonna blather, and I am very good at blathering. You guys know this. I know this. I should be a politician with how much I can blather. I knew a guy that blathered, but I blathered anyway.
Let her cook. She's got something here.
So, way back in the day, the in Rogue Trader, the tech priesthood of Mars wasn't really a thing just yet. It was more of a footnote, kind of like how the Horus Heresy was a footnote in the Chaos book. It was just like, yeah, the heresy happened, and it's like, okay, well, what is that? So originally there were just Space Marines, Orcs, Sisters of Battle, which were one of the founding factions. I found out that's always pretty cool. But the Adeptus Mechanicus wasn't really. It was kind of a legend amongst fans that they would get a faction of their own. And all of us like really looked forward to it because the only things that we had of the Adeptus Mechanicus at the time was a card game with just some pictures on it. That's where the Ordinatus comes from. It was just a they took artwork from John Blanche, pour one out for the homie. They took artwork from him and just gave it some lore and some sentences and junk like that, and then a bunch of other artworks, and threw it all in with like, this is the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Some of that stuff was in the Epic game,
Yes.
which was before the card game. But you're right; it's there's
Yeah.
there's a through line that you can draw. Just it does take a little detour into Epic territory for
Yeah. In Epic, they had the Ordinatus again, because the Ordinatus was like a big deal for the Adeptus Mechanicus, and I really like that. But they didn't have. They had the Onager. It was mentioned for the first time in Epic, but it was for two factions. It was for the Leagues of Votan and it was for the Mechanicus. And it wasn't a dedicated four-legged quadrupedal machine. It was just a vehicle. And it didn't have a model, which was weird. It was just, it's there, it has rules, it didn't have a picture, it's there. But the Adeptus Mechanicus stayed a mystery where everything else kind of had a faction at the time. Gene Stealer Cults had a faction, but it wasn't very good. Arbites had a faction, wasn't very good. And a whole bunch of other armies got all of their stuff. But for some reason, the Adeptus Mechanicus was left on the table, just never touched. Third edition rolled around. Adeptus Mechanicus got a bit more lore. So people were like, okay, it's the tech priesthood of Mars. They have the monopoly on technology. They're an ally to the Imperium. They are allowed to keep their religion. The Horus Heresy is starting to actually be more put out there. The game is getting more grim dark. This is where the body horror started really showing up. Is third edition. Second edition, not so much. It was there. It was there, but it wasn't to the point of the designers didn't watch Hellraiser yet.
Well, it's a lot of H.R. Geiger too, with like the tubes going into the
Yep.
mouths. A lot of that.
Yep. But then fourth edition came around and Adeptus Mechanicus got their own lore, like dedicated lore. And it was split into two factions, the Scutari and the Adeptus Mechanicus. And it was really awkward. And then that was kind of it. Then fifth edition came around and it stayed the same. Sixth edition, they got an army. I think it was sixth or seventh edition. I could be wrong. But the one where they got their army, one was for Scutari and it could be allied in. The other one was for Mechanicum, and they had a knight in there. It's when knights first came out, so it has to be like sixth or seventh edition. I'm also going to add the TH to all of that because somebody in the chat's going to say the dumb meme.
Seventh edition was the first one.
Yeah, so seventh edition, they've got their first models, and this was huge. Mechanicus didn't have models. No one knew what their tanks really looked like. There weren't too many pictures outside of the stuff that we got for Heresy around the same time. Heresy started getting their own resin kits, and these models were absolute garbage. Oh my God, they were the hardest things to keep together, and you would drill into it and the whole weapon would explode because, oh my God, Forge World resin at the time was some of the worst resin on the planet. I knew you were going to do a Godzilla Rex. I knew you were going to do it. But they started getting an army at the time, but their lore still wasn't really there. 8th edition rolled around and we got rid of, this is the end of the Kirby era.
This is... So 7th edition was 2015, which was actually right at the start of the new regime. So Kirby was out, Roundtree was in, and they replaced their head of IP, and they opened up the vaults, and that's when we saw this crazy stuff happen. This was 11 years ago, y'all.
Now, in that entire time, since then till now, there have been so many stories with the Adeptus Mechanicus that is so instrumental to the future of Warhammer 40k. Belisarius Call, Arkan Lan, because Arkan Lan was a character but wasn't written about yet. Then he got written about because a lot of this stuff was retroactively put into the heresy.
He was
to
just
make
in
it
a White
work.
Dwarf. He was basically just
Yeah.
in White Dwarfs before
Yep.
the novels for Horus Heresy.
So he got made into a full-fledged novel character. He doesn't have a character model yet. He really should. I would buy the hell out of that model. Belisarius Call made the Primaris project. We found out that he actually planned something with Guilliman prior to Guilliman's death, but Guilliman was dead before this plan came. So they had to retroactively throw it into the heresy. So they did one book where they made it so that it took place during the Great Crusade, even though we were just starting the Siege of Terror. And they were just like, oh yeah, Belisarius Call's been there the whole time. Yeah, there he is. And then we got all of the new vehicles and everything. Then there was a range refresh, but GW didn't properly know what to do with the Gene Stealer cult. Originally, they were this weird Dune-esque style vehicles with
you
some
said,
crawlers and everything.
You said Gene Stealer cult. I think you mean
Sorry,
Machine Cult.
Machine Cult. Yeah, sorry. There's a lot of cults. Gene Stealers played a very important partnership with the Adeptus Mechanicus for some reason. And the reason for it is during the second wave of new models for the Adeptus Mechanicus, they were just like, you know what? Fuck it. They're cowboys. They're fighting other cowboys. So we got the Skitarii Marshal versus the Gene Stealer called Billy the Nid in this weird cowboy-esque fight.
Oh, please, God, tell me that's the name that the community has given him.
That is the name.
Yes.
That is absolutely the name the community has given
beautiful.
him. It's Billy
Beautiful.
the Nid.
Love it.
So now we got a second version of him, but GW wanted to keep the Archaea, they wanted it to be Leonardo da Vinci meets Dune, so they made the Archaeocopters, which is just Dune if it was designed by Leonardo da Vinci, which is perfect. It's a really, really cool way of doing an Archaeocopter. So we're starting to see, and in the 11 years since they became an army, they got a whopping 2 characters, Belisarius Call and Thulia. Thulia came out, I think, this year.
Yes.
So if we wait 11 more years, we might have 3 characters. Just saying. But all that to say that the Adeptus Mechanicus started out as a faction with no information about it, being this mysterious machine cult that was active in the background, to being one of the most prominent members, to being the partner of the Imperium. That's how important they became. They started out as almost a footnote to being the second most important Imperium of their own.
Well, technically, they've always been important. Like the actually one of the heads of the Aquila is meant to represent Mars and the other Terra.
Yes.
And in fact, the Aquila, the adoption of the 2-headed eagle, comes from they needed a new symbol for their union after the Treaty of Olympus Mons, where they officially became allies.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a long story. But anyway, they've been very important for a while in the lore, but you're right that they haven't been as prominent. And that role within the Imperium has started to grow and grow and grow and become much more upfront over time, for sure.
Which I absolutely love, and I'm hoping they keep expanding into the future because I like what they're doing. I like the random cowboy element of the Adeptus Mechanicus with the Cerberus Raiders, the Marshals, the sheriffs, essentially. Like, you put a cowboy hat on them, and you got these cowboy robot dudes that are, like, horrific capitalists. I love it. I think that's great. And, like... It's one of the coolest factions in Warhammer 40k, and I wanted to share why I really like them, and it's because of what they became.
They are super cool. I've always been a big fan. So let's do an overview. The Adeptus Mechanicus, which is also called the Cult Mechanicus or the Priesthood of Mars. It is the technological and religious institution of and within the Imperium of Man. And they're devoted to the fabrication and maintenance and especially the veneration of technology. The tech priests, which are the members of the Adeptus Mechanicus, they believe that technology and the act of creating it are sacred. So corrupting or misusing that knowledge is considered tech heresy and is often punishable by death. Although, again, there's some very specific versions of that.
Yep.
The Adeptus Mechanicus, they operate under some very ancient covenants that they made directly with the Emperor, granting it a jurisdictional monopoly over the use of mostly all technology, like 99% of all technology across the Imperium. The Emperor kept a little piece that only he and his buddies can use. See Psi Titans, for example.
And most of the
Custodes
and Sisters Silent stuff.
Yeah. But aside from that, they cover 99% of all the technology in the Imperium, and they maintain a very careful and mutually dependent balance of power with the Imperium's other big institutions. We talked about this when we talked about that one Sister of Battle character and the suits. What are they called? The
Paragon War suits.
The Paragon War suits, right? And how the Sisters of Battle, like all their tech is made by Mars, because Mars does not want to get into a pissing match with the ecclesiarchy.
Which we found out that one piece of their tech doesn't originally come from Mars, but it became because the Sisters of Battle Codex directly states, and the Mechanicum Codex directly states that they make everything for the Sisters of Battle. It means that they adopted the Penitent Engine, which was originally is it Nocturne? Is the homeworld of the Boy?
No, Nocturne is for the
Vulcan
Salamanders.
Yeah.
Salamanders. You're thinking Nostromo, which is the homeworld of the Night Lords. There you go.
Yes, because that was originally Nostroman technology, and then it was integrated within the Mechanicum. But we're going to actually talk about that because the original Mechanicum, not the Adeptus Mechanicus yet, was more open to ideas, like way more open compared to nowadays.
Right. Yeah, there was a thing called the Schism of Mars. It happened during the Horus Heresy, and after that point, the Adeptus Mechanicus was like, you know what? We're not going to be as open to these things because holy crap, look at all the horrible things that emerged from the vaults during the Schism of Mars. All right, so let's talk about their theology a little bit because they have a divine trinity. Okay, there's the machine god, there's the omnissiah. They are not necessarily the same thing, and there is the motive force. And the motive force, let me see. The machine god is the source of all knowledge. The embodiment of wisdom is the omnissiah, and the animating force that empowers all things is the motive force. And this applies to mechanical and biological life, both in tandem. Their faith is, like all faith in the Imperium almost, is founded on a very unchanging dogma and rote ritual. It's repeated without deviation and has been largely the same for 10,000 years. To the point that true understanding of science and technology has been buried beneath ceremony and a lot of half-remembered rituals.
Mm-hmm.
The tech priests, they soothe the machine spirits of cogitators. They reignite generatoria with fire. They have little like sensors that have special incense and oils and things. And it's treated very much like the pageantry of religion, even while they're just forging Imperial war material and chanting and using their technical skill alongside the most mundane maintenance tasks that have turned into rituals.
In fact, one of the big things about the Adeptus Mechanicus is during their prayers to the machine itself, they're actually just running diagnostics connected to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so, to them, it's exactly the same thing. Like, they are not running diagnostics. They are praying to the machine, and the machine is going to tell them what's wrong with it. And then they address what's wrong with it, which usually comes up as, 1 billion different things because a machine probably shouldn't be functioning for 10,000 years.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult to keep something running that long. And so a lot of workarounds and, I mean, basically it's what a lot of the rituals are, is they're workarounds, they're, what's the word? They're adapted, right, to the fact that the machines sometimes break down and sometimes don't, and they try to figure out because they don't really fully understand why and how these things work. They're just like, I know that if I chant the right of powering up the device and select the right button and then administer the ritual slap to the side of the monitor, the machine turns on. I know that, but everything beyond the surface, that is all magic.
Now, some people in the comments might be like, well, Ross, of course they understand technology. Just look at modern day. Well, unfortunately, even though we know exactly how, like, now imagine you can't use Google for a second, okay? You know, you're a boomer, okay?
I'm not a boomer, thankfully, but yes.
Okay. But, okay, you can't use Google, you can't do anything. You know, Ross, you know how a TV works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
Exactly.
I know the very basic idea of how it works. Like there's
Yes.
data that's being transmitted into the machine. Like, I mean, even we're talking about like flat screens, right? You know, because the old cathode ray stuff, I'm not even sure I could explain that even any more than what I currently do. But I understand the concept that a screen requires electricity and is using ones and zeros to create images on it. You know, things.
This
like
is the exact thing that tech priests know. They know it works. They know kind of how it works, but they're kind of just like winging it, if that makes sense. Now, this isn't to say that all tech priests don't have innate knowledge on how certain machines work. There are some tech priests that just do. Like Belisarius Call is a great example of a tech priest who actually took things apart, learned exactly how they worked, put them together, and then hides that knowledge from everyone else because if they found out that he did that, he goes to the no-no box.
He is considered an extremely radical member of the tech priests. They're all like, I don't know about this guy. Like he's got a lot of knowledge. He's got the ear of the Lord Regent, so I guess we better give him some leeway. But Jesus.
I'm Messiah. How do you know this? Don't worry about it. Why is all this archaeotech taken apart over here? Wasn't this all together a minute ago? How would you know what it looked like together?
Yep. Yeah, using their cultishness against them sometimes works.
Actually, that is exactly what Belisarius did in his novel. He used rules as written versus rules as intended as an argument against them, and they couldn't get him on anything, even though they totally did.
They
but
tried so hard, yeah.
He just disagreed. He's basically Count Binface, if you really think about it.
So let's talk about the hierarchy of the tech priesthood, because the tech priests actually are the ruling caste. Okay, they are a big deal. Even an individual lowly tech priest, the lowliest tech priest of them all, is still like above Scutari. He's above Secutari. He's above, all servitors. He is a big deal. They direct the fabrication efforts and they lead crusades to acquire lost technology in the Omnissiah's name. Those guys are called explorators. I think the Rogue Trader computer game has one of those.
Yes, it does.
They acts of worship for a tech priest usually involve replacing their flesh with mechanical augmentation, because they see this as a path towards union with the machine god and towards perfection. And the result is that the most senior tech priests, which are usually called magi, or a majo so-and-so, right? They are barely recognizable as human. They have multi-jointed crawling legs, gilded armatures, cranial implants, brains suspended in crystal jars, linked by neural interfaces. These guys get weird, and they communicate through a lot of esoteric dialects. Sometimes this blends machine tongue with human speech. Binaric cant is one form of this language. Lingua technis, or technolingua, as it's also called. Hexamathic code. They have this thing called the noosphere, which is a lot like the internet, that they can sort of communicate with other people using their brains.
I think the noosphere is more like Cyberpunk's internet.
Yeah, it's cyberpunky.
Yeah, because it's very much like separate, like little things of internet all over the place, kind of like almost like clouds around them.
What other type of language is called Novabyte? But anyway, the language of the machine cult is largely incomprehensible to outsiders unless you have some very specialist augmentations. And the tech priests are concentrated on a number of worlds called Forge Worlds. Forge Worlds are basically temples to the machine god. They are industrial powerhouses. They tend to be, but are not always, kind of like Coruscant, where they take over every inch of ground on the planet and turn it into factories and laboratories and all kinds of stuff. Each Forge World has a leader, a guy called a Fabricator General, and the Fabricator General is the most technically adept individual on that world. And underneath them, they have these guys called Fabricator Locums that oversee the individual forged temples. The title Tech Priest covers thousands of specialized roles, and they shift according to the Forge Role custom and their subcult affiliations. There is one guy, the Fabricator General of Mars. He is on the High Lords of Terra. He's one of the biggest of the bigwigs.
Mm-hmm. It's also heavily implied that Belisarius call inferior wants to actually be the Fabricator General of Mars because he wants to take over. Now, is that Belisarius Call's will, or is that the abominable intelligence clone of himself that he made to talk to Gilliman?
Yeah. It's possible. You can broadly break down the tech priests according to 4 categories. There's the Magi, which are the command network. They're the esoteric mastery. They have a lot of different titles, stuff like Prime Hermeticon or Lord Dogma. It's pretty wild. Then you get the
Lord Dogma. That's pretty cool.
I know, right? Then there's the Genitors. These guys they study biological stuff. They are your geneticists. They are your biologists. Your biologists. I pronounce that very terribly.
They do have Magus Biologists as well, which also falls into this category.
Right, but they're under Genitors. They're under the category of Genitors. There's the Logi. These guys, they specialize in information and data acquisition. And then there's the Artisans, and these guys are the ones who craft things out and make weapons and stuff like that. And there's also the tech priests and manipulus. They shape and wield the motive force, which a lot of people call them the electro priests because of this. They visualize they're cool. Sorry, they visualize an aspect of the machine god with the motive force. And there's other groups that devote themselves to things like metallurgy or alchemical synthesis or gravitic theodominance, like really bizarre stuff.
There's a tech priest in Mechanicum too that specialized so heavily into one specific thing that they get confused when you ask them another question. Yeah. It's great. I don't want to spoil it because it's actually part of the story itself. Yeah.
Some very senior tech adepts or tech priests, they can direct grand strategies in war, and they may adopt a title called Dominus. So you may see some of the models for the miniature war game are like Magos Dominus. That's because it's kind of like they've been anointed as a general, although this is typically a temporary battlefield role. Some tech priests do get permanently addicted to it, and they never give it up. But
like Thalia.
All right, we need to take a break and answer all these super chats. We got a bunch of them.
Yeah, which is really cool. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. Again, the super chats help us out tremendously. They keep us going. They allow me to buy dumb stuff like swords.
It basically keeps the lights on here at Lorebeards 40K, so we appreciate
way too many miniatures.
Dynaman says, random comment, but I was listening to Your Love before the stream, and due to a certain meme about the Mechanicus, my mind recreated the paraphrased lyric, "You know I like my girls a little bit toaster." They are all a little bit toaster in the Mechanicus, that's for sure. There is, in fact, one of the love interests of Caiaphas Cain was a tech priest called Felicia, who was just slightly augmented compared to many of the other ones we're talking about today. So she was, in fact, a little bit toaster. Necromance Kobold says, massive shout outs to Dark Tide and their Skitarii Alpha class.
It is so much fun.
And the 40K Mechanicus games with the world's best opening speech. Oh, I've got to go watch that.
I intend to recite that speech during this stream.
Oh shit! Okay,
I'm gonna let you know that.
all right.
But one of my favorite things in Darktide, since we got on the subject, specifically the Skitarii, is if the Skitarii is talking to the Arbite and the Arbite has their Cybermastiff, the the Skitarii goes, you are blessed to have such a good master. And then the Arbite's like, yeah, I know, I take good care of him. And he just goes, no, the the dog is the master. They are closer to the machine, not you, you idiot.
That's a good one. I like
Also,
that.
you get probably the coolest gun in the entirety of. It's not the coolest gun in all of Warhammer 40k, but it is up there.
Is it a
It
radium
is.
rifle?
It's a M1 Grand with a how to put this, because it's not a clip. It is a clip because it is an M1 Grand. So the clip goes into the top, but then the thing on the bottom just has radiation in it. So it's irradiating the round you're shooting out of the gun, but they're literally shooting an M1 Grand and energizing it to fire faster. It is a rail grand gun, and it is so cool because it shoots radiation, which also means that everyone next to that Skitarii is going to die of radiation poisoning.
Well, is it the arc
Details.
rifle or the galvanic rifle or the phosphor blast pistol? It's not the pistol then. It's got to be the arc rifle or the galvanic rifle.
It's the arc rifle.
Okay.
No, sorry, it's the galvanic rifle. It's the standard rifle that they have as an M1 Grand,
And
and
okay.
It shoots radiated rounds, not irradiated rounds. There's a difference. I know. I'm not smart enough to point out the difference. All I know is that they put nuclear energy into on top of it and shoot it out versus the round being depleted uranium rounds, which the other weapon is.
So the arc rifle is a lightning gun.
Yeah, the arc rifle shoots lightning.
Okay.
The
galvanic rifle is a very accurate long range weapon, and it uses electrogalvanic energy. It's basically
it's a railgun.
It is essentially a railgun. Yeah, it's another way to put it. Anyway, the Skitarii boy is one of our guys. We will have to talk about the Skitarii as a whole show because they're just amazing. She's so excited about it.
I'm excited to talk about my favorite type of weapons.
All right, Ice Veins, welcome, Ice Veins. He says, in my opinion, the Adeptus Mechanicus is similar when it comes to the dwarfs in fantasy. The technology advancements are very stagnant, and it takes centuries for design to become accepted. There's some overlap there. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, it's weirdly enough, it's kind of like if dwarves and Skaven were the same thing. Yeah, try not to think of that. Or you can think of adorable tiny Skaven.
Skitarii boy, welcome back. He says Calgar got 2 post-Primaris models in the time between Call and Thulia's release. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's a good point.
So Calgar got a model released and discontinued before Thalia came out.
Necromancer Kobold says, I love how much Adeptus Mechanicus are the worst, mutually destructive, most annoying, and troublemaking assholes in the Imperium, but they're tolerated because the Imperium will instantly collapse without them. That's very true. Very true.
I think some of my favorite stories between the Mechanicus comes from the Sisters of Battle and the Mechanicus, because the Sisters of Battle cannot stand the Mechanicus because they worship the Omnissiah but not the Emperor, and they don't know enough about the Omnissiah to know that it's the same thing. And the Mechanicus does the same thing to them, but in order to dodge actually trying to kill each other, the Mechanicus makes all of their technology, and the Sisters of Battle help direct explorative fleets. So it's like they work together, but they hate each other.
It's a very interesting relationship, that's for sure. Pumpkin Historian says, yes, the Machine God, the Omnissiah, and the Motive Force. Totally original ideas, and not at all copy and paste from Christianity and the Holy Trinity. Legally distinct, sir. They are legally distinct.
Yep.
All right, let's see here. We got that one already. We got this one. All right, here we go. Ice Veins says, if the restrictions were lifted off the Mechanicus, I believe they could restore the Imperium back to the Dark Age level, to have technology level eventually. Ooh. Maybe.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hear me out. I think they would kill everyone before they managed to do that.
I mean, there's a chance that it could go the way Ice Fades is saying. I don't think it's necessarily a big chance, but removing all the restrictions off the Mechanicus, that we need to talk about the Schism of Mars so bad.
Yes.
Because holy shit, that's when all the restrictions were lifted, and we had so many awful things.
But if they could just build new technology, they're going to be insane. Like, imagine if every tech priest was Belisarius Call at that point. You would have almost every problem figured out.
Imagine if in the real world, the production and creation of and development of artificial intelligence was almost entirely free of government regulation and was left in the hands of amoral businessmen. And oh shit, that's actually where we are.
You're talking about everything that's happening right now.
Let's just say it wouldn't go well. I don't think it will go well, but there's a chance it could go well. Donovan says, so this probably varies, but while inventing new stuff is heresy, again, largely. What about recombining existing tech, like putting a turret from one vehicle on the chassis of another? They get surprisingly picky about this kind of thing.
What was it in the 3rd or 4th edition Space Wolf Codex? They got really mad about the Annihilator pattern of Predator, and it took them 100 years to be like, the machine spirit seems cool with it. So it's fine.
I guess it's fine. Yeah, they tend to frown on things that would ordinarily seem like they make sense to us, because this is part of the satire of the Tech Priests of Mars. They basically own all technology. They basically have made it their own, but they don't know jack shit about it in a lot of cases. So that's the joke. That is the ultimate satire of the Adeptus Mechanicus. They rule over all tech in the Imperium, and they know very, very little about it. But that's a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because we are going to talk about some of those things today.
We just got one more.
One more. Hey, Dynaman, go ahead.
Click.
If you want a pure horror version of the Mechanicus, he says, I recommend the excerpt of the Servitor Factory from Flesh and Steel. You can find it on Reddit.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Really
I'll have to look that one up. And Servitors absolutely can be horrific, for sure. In Dark Heresy, we created a whole bunch of them called Murder Servitors and Golems, which were just awful, awful, awful things.
Yep.
All right. So that brings us back to so Skitarii Boy, just for you, we will briefly cover who the Skitarii are, because we kind of have to. They are the cybernetic foot soldiers of the cult Mechanicus. They are usually drawn from indentured laborers, or their vat-grown in flesh farms, or their techno-barbarian tribes that they have recruited. The origins vary greatly amongst the Skitarii, but they are universally zealous in their devotion regardless of their origin, which strongly implies that part of the process of becoming a Skitarii is replacing a part of your brain that makes you say, yes, the machine god is good and great, and I will never turn against them.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Don't think about it. Or think about it.
The Skitarii, they replace their fallible ligaments and flesh with titanium servomotors, bionic musculature. The Skitarii regard every binary command from their tech priest masters as a holy commandment. They are in effect kind of like the Crusading Knights, if you will. The Skitarii units are usually led by what's called an alpha or a princeps, although that is not the same as a titan princeps, to be clear. They're organized into groups called maniples, and then combined into cohorts, and then into macroclades, which is the top level military structure of a Forge world. Which I love the term macroclade, by the way. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they can operate with mechanical precision, they are not mindless. The individual marshals that command them can conduct independent operations. They can apply in-loaded tactical schematics, and they can make intuitive tactical adjustments in the field. some of these, if you want to think about them as techno barbarians, some of these guys are basically like cyborg Conan and can kind of decide to say, okay, we're going to do it this way, boys. They're given a lot of leeway. Hey, I think I actually commissioned this piece of art.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's so cool. Even
Also,
when
that's the galvanic rifle.
Yes, it is. Even when they're defeated, Skitarii can transmit battlefield data back to the Tech Priest Masters. And the Adeptus Mechanicus values the data harvested from losses almost as much as victories.
It kind of has a similarity to the the Votan.
There's a whole bunch of different types of Skitarii. We will do an episode just for them and talk about all of them. I'm not going to here because there's just a lot of them.
There's at least 3.
There's like a dozen.
There is like a dozen.
Skitarii bodies are basically grotesque hybrids of gray matter and neurocircuitry. Their lower legs are, kind of a weird imitation of the earliest Martian cohorts. And once they pass a certain threshold of turning their flesh into metal, they gain a thing called the crux mechanicus, which makes them more machine than flesh. And then once you pass that threshold, you can earn the rank of Skitarii Alpha, and then some proceed further to the Alpha Primuses or the Marshals, which I think the Marshal is the highest rank in the Skitarii.
As far as I know, yes. Also, every single Skitarii Marshal that you ever see, you should call them Mathers. You got it.
Marshal Mathers, yeah.
Yep,
Will the real Slim Shady please stand up on his bionic legs? Then there's the Electro Priests. Do you want to talk about the Electro Priests?
Let me grab a picture of them as you do the intro. Really
fair enough. So these are congregations of guys that channel the motive force, and they have these things called Electus, which is an electric/electronic tattoo. It connects their nervous system and it lets their bodies discharge lethal bioelectric power. There is a theological schism in this group. So you have the Corpuscari. There you go. The Corpuscari believe in spreading the machine god's power outward. They unleash electrocuting bolts from their gauntlets. And then the rivals.
Power.
Yeah, absolutely. The Emperor. Their rivals are called the Fulgurites, and they consider using the motive force in that manner a sin because they consider electricity a finite resource. So they instead drain the electricity out of their enemies at melee range using electro leech staves or staffs like this guy has in his hand. And they store the stolen energy in their back. They have these capacitor cells back there that store all the energy they steal.
So in layman's terms for this is if they take enough energy from your body, they stop the synapses in your brain. Your heart, all of your organs stop functioning. You are hit and you die a very, very painful, drowning death when they hit you. It is awful. I would rather get hit by this because this is just, oh, you electrocute me. That sucks, but it's over in an instant. This takes like 10 minutes for you to die. And you're going to die nasty. Of multiple heart attacks as your lungs fill with water.
It's nasty. All right. Very briefly, we'll talk about the Legio Cybernetica.
Do you mind if I touch on servitors really quickly?
Because oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
A few people talking about them.
Yeah, let's talk about servitors.
About this really quickly. The manufacture and making of servitors is absolutely a religious experience for the makers and the person that they are turning into a servitor. It is considered an amazing honor that you are being turned into a servitor, and absolutely nothing goes wrong in any way, shape, or form. They take the poor, the downtrodden, people that they kidnap, entire planet's population sometimes, people in the wrong place and time, people who have accidentally got off at the wrong bus stop, Larry from electronics, anybody who happens to be in their path. If an Adeptus Mechanicus ship needs servitors, they just go down and take them from the planetary population. And it doesn't matter what you were now being servitored. So a servitor is it's a slave. You're a slave. You are a menial that is given one task and you do that one task. And most of the time you are not conscious of that task because you were lobotomized. The
It's the butter robot from Rick and Morty. This is my
Yes.
whole purpose is to serve butter. Oh God, my life is this. Yeah,
Yep. Now, typically servitors come in two styles that you'll see on the tabletop. One's with bionic arm clamps and tethers, and the other is a gun servitor. There are thousands upon millions of different types of servitors that all fulfill multiple roles within the Imperium. Uh, and I will tell you, while the making of a servitor is considered sacred and, a blessing of the Omnissiah, the second that is over, you are just a slave. That's it. You are a door for the rest of your life. You are a cleaning robot, person, thing. You are that poor servitor that got in the way of what was his name? Drachnian that one time who felt every single bit of pain in the history of forever. Oh, that poor guy.
yeah.
But
Servitors. It is a massive overreaction to the AI issue that they had that the universe of 40K had, which was called the War of the Metaviron, which took place during the Age of Strife. And basically, AIs and machines went to war against humans, and the machine cult on Mars was like, okay, we're never doing that again. And to make sure we never do that again, we're going to make sure that all of our calculators and our guys with guns, we're just going to build people into them, and that way it won't be AI. It'll be a person somehow, sort of, kind of doing the thing.
And that makes it better for some reason, even though
Oh
if they ever gained consciousness, that would make it thousands of times worse. Those servitors, because of their lobotomization, typically demons don't like to possess them because they're locked in and they don't feel too much. And demons really like sensations.
yeah,
So yeah, it is a horrific process and probably one of the worst fates in all of 40K is to be turned into a servitor. Though some can be really, really cool and powerful, like the murder servitors that Ross made, or things like the combat servitors that are so powerful that planetary governors use them to fight off space marines when they don't pay their taxes. That's a story from the Blood Angels, by the way. That's an
that's right.
actual thing that happened. Servitors can be insanely powerful. There are multiple different types. War constructs like the oh my god, I just completely lost what they're called. The I have them. They are I am be hang on. I'm building them.
Okay.
Oh, I put them in the wrong spot.
Okay.
There we go. These, because I got a commission for these are all servitors.
Yeah. Battles. Sorry. What's
Battle servitors, and then you have the servitor archaeological team.
right? So these guys, servitors, are basically a meld, like a human machine construct, and they're created for, as Lexus would say, very narrow, repetitive functions. They haul ore, they pull levers, they open doors, they serve butter. They do all like the terrible menial tasks, but their creation strips away everything about that person. Like, you lose your extraneous limbs, your hair, your free will, your imagination. The augmentations that are built into that person tailor to their function and are usually grafted on or replace wholesale their bodies. And some servitors may only retain a fingertip and a reinforced joint to depress an activation rune. They may just be like, my whole job is to push this button.
Mm-hmm. And
And
they'll do it
others
for thousands of years.
are reduced to little more than a brain stem wired into guidance systems for weapons. They have servitor controlled missiles in 40K.
Mm.
That's it. You're the guidance system for a missile.
One of my favorite is they take the human brain, they separate all the parts of the human brain, and then they use those to put into the programming chips that they plug into the battle automata.
Which I was about to talk about. But I'll get back to
Yep.
them. The servitors are a documented instrument of punishment for the tech priest. If you anger anyone in the tech priesthood, you could be lobotomized and turned into a servitor as a warning. Like this is an example to encourage the others. And this is even Imperial personnel. Like you don't even have to be a person in the Mechanicus. You just have to be nearby and screw something up. And they're like, that guy is a now servitor. The biological, here's the fun fact. It's not really a fun fact. It's kind of a gross fact, but the biological components of a servitor are treated as disposable because repair is not considered efficient. So Forge Worlds maintain basically an endless supply of replacement flesh, which is either vat grown in bulk batches or drawn from the indentured population. Oh, it's gross. It's so gross. There's some really wild fan theories about servitors we'll have to get into later.
I also just love that machine spirits might actually just be part of a human brain that's stuck into a robot somewhere.
That's a possibility.
Like, oh yeah, the Land Raider came to life and shot up a whole bunch of things. No, it's actually Steve, who's just a brain inside the engine.
Or a piece of a brain. It is one of the most grimdark parts of the grimdark is servitors. The whole idea of them. All right,
but
so
I love them. They're so good. Them and cherubim and servo skulls. Absolutely, the pinnacle of 40K is the fact that a zombified half bionic baby reloads your gun. Like nothing will ever be as grimdark as a space marine firing, throwing the cartridge to the side and holding their weapon to the side, only for a lobotomized clone baby monster reloading it.
It's important to point out that servo skulls and cherubim are not servitors. They are a different thing.
Yeah.
They're not servitors. Okay.
Yeah. Servo skulls are dead members that they try to use. They honor them by making them servo skulls, and sometimes they're entire like family members and everything. The cherubim are also made on Mars, mind you, but they are just vat grown mutant monster babies.
Yeah, they're basically cloned flesh that's created by magi biologists from selected genetic templates, and they're augmented usually with mechanical wings or anti-grav systems, sensors, Vox units, other specialized equipment. They are described as a type of servitor, but to be clear, they are definitely not. They are a very different kind of servitor if they are a servitor. I question whether that's actually true.
I always put them in a subcategory. Like, it's kind of like on the family tree, but it's like there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The servo skull, though, that is entirely mechanical. That is a utility drone. It's just inside a human skull. Usually the skull of a loyal servant, either to the Imperium or to the Mechanicus. And it has little anti-grav systems and sensors and a cogitator and Vox equipment and some task-specific tools. They're common. You can see servo skulls a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Imperium treats the skull as both useful material and a sacred relic. They love skulls in the Imperium. Just look at any model.
In fact, there's a really funny reference in a Caiaphas Cain book where he knew that he was in Tau-controlled area before the Tau revealed themselves because there were no skulls there.
Yeah, precisely. So yeah, we talked a little bit about the idea of AI and why it's bad. Let's get into the Legio Cybernetica because this is where we talk about robots. And yeah, that may sound a little weird when I just said that AI is bad.
Well, they're obviously just robots. They put a human skull on it, and sometimes they put brain matter in it.
They do. These the robots that the Legio Cybernetica field actually are older than the Imperium. They are very old. They're usually like 10,000 years or more. They were using these robots during the Great Crusade. They were using these robots during the Horus Heresy. They were using these robots after that. They are robots. They operate under certain battle protocols in combat, and otherwise they have like this utility protocols. These are basically just like a set of built-in commands, and they're very simple. Like they try to make sure the robots do not have super advanced or super complicated stuff, because that would be approaching the forbidden AI, or they like to call it abominable intelligence or silica animus. That's what they tend to call it. So
now it is debated whether or not the Castellan robots and Vorax battle automata and some of the other automata actually do have intelligence. They do show signs that they are beyond their programming, but it's always like, "Oh no, I'm looking too deep into this. A tee-hee, it'll never hurt me." In fact, the Kill Protocol episode of Hammer and Bolter does a really good job of showcasing that the Castellan robot might be able to think for itself.
Now there's these guys called data smiths. They're the Legio Cybernetica tech priests that control the robots. And they, to change the behavior of the robot, they insert a wafer, a Doctrina wafer. Okay. And this is a reference to old punch card computer technology. Almost everyone listening to this podcast is too young to remember it. I don't remember it, and I'm 51 years old. So this is an example of very old real world tech, but it does require this guy to physically swap the wafers. Okay, if the wafer is damaged or if the data smith is killed, the robot just keeps doing whatever it was last told to do. Now, this rigid control is important because the true artificial intelligence was outlawed because the Dark Age technology was awful. There were independent thinking machines with catastrophic consequences. It's described as, I mean, just the worst, most destructive, entire star systems being wiped out, stuff like that. And according to a thing called the Crimson Accords of Mars, these are laws that are older than the Imperium. They forbid hardwiring independent thought into anything. And the people that defied this ban are the ones that joined with Horus during the Schism of Mars, during the Horus Heresy. And their descendants are called the Dark Mechanicum. They call themselves the New Mechanicum. And the priesthood of Mars tends to just be like, we don't talk about them.
Yeah, they don't deny their existence.
They don't exist. We don't talk about them. All right, we should go ahead.
I still think one of my favorite things is in the episode for Hammer and Bolter when she's changing the cartridges, which kind of look like SNES cartridges or NES cartridges, which is really funny. She says, "Spirit of the machine, heed my will," and gives it the protocol. Like I can't remember the protocols right off the top of my head, and it's bugging me. But the last one is Kill Protocol, and all of its weapon systems activate. It just starts firing like crazy. It's such a good episode. I highly recommend. If you have a Warhammer Plus account, go and watch Hammer and Bolter. It's amazing. If you don't have a Warhammer Plus account, find a way to watch it. I won't tell you how, but you could find a way.
I do see a couple of comments I want to address. Necromancer Cobalt says, were the cherubs used to be or implied to be real babies and then retconned into Vatground? No. Actually, Alan Merritt, who was the head of IP through the Kirby era, he once told me specifically, he says that they were never intended to be real at all, that they were just meant to be like a cool thing that was part of like an illustrated manuscript approach to the codexes. And then somehow that art got to the sculptors and they just started making models of it.
Yeah.
And once models were made of it, they couldn't just say they were imaginary anymore, and they had to they're vat-grown clones. They had to kind of scramble.
One of the other big things is that they not only did they make a mold of one, they gave it an actual in-game purpose of reloading your weapon to shoot again.
I want to say the first ones were part of Grimaldus, I think, was one of the first models to have. I think it was 4th or 5th edition was the first time they came out as a model. So
I think it was a character that got it first, but the most common one is the one alongside the Space Marine Devastators.
Yeah, that came later. And this guy, Elemental Exposure, says, I remember punch cards. They were used to turn on a train in Cyberpunk. Yes, that's the best modern example of punch cards.
Yeah.
If you play Cyberpunk 2077, there's a mission about it. Okay, now we've got more super chats to read. Where did we leave off here? Okay. Got one from Dynaman who says, he's excerpting from the story of the servitors. He says the rejected person was then swallowed up by a trapdoor opening beneath their feet. From these pits wafted a hideous stench. and the grinding sounds of industrial mincers. One rejected man grabbed onto the lip and hung there, arms and hands bloodied, spouting a stream of defiant profanities. Guards lined the grating either side of him and shocked him until he fell. The Adepts wouldn't even waste bullets on these people. Ugh.
Yeah, it's so creepy. I absolutely love it. I think it's so good.
Yeah, I think it was the Inquisition in the early 2000s maybe had him. But I don't know. I can't find the first cherubim miniature. I don't know which one it was. It might have been I think it might have been with the Inquisitor Lord from late third edition, but all right.
I can't find the quotes from I was trying to find the quotes from the Hammer and Bolter episode without watching it.
Avani DK, hey, my brother in Birthright, good to see you. He says, wasn't there a bit of lore about a planetary system having a mental institute for guardsmen with PTSD and also had the Forge World that made a suspiciously large number of servitors?
Yes, it's actually it's common knowledge in the Guard that if you have PTSD, they take you away and they lobotomize you.
Okay, I don't know where that's from, but if you say it's true, I'm going to go with you on that one.
It's heavily implied that you are either dishonorably discharged, which doesn't exist in the Imperium, or you are just removed. And what do they do with criminals? Because it is illegal to flee from battle, and PTSD is fleeing from battle.
Well, it's
horrifying.
More complicated than that, but yeah. Dynaman says the servitor guided knows where it is because it knows where it isn't. I guess that's from the lobotomization part of it. Yeah, servitors are awful. Thanks for bringing that up, Dynaman. Avani DK says, and the Iron Hands company that servitorized the survivors of a PDF regiment, Planetary Defense Force PDF, not an Adobe PDF. Because they held out long enough that the Space Marines could arrive and save the planet. To them, it was a reward. Yeah, the 40K Iron Hands, not the 30K version. The 40K Iron Hands are just assholes who are they're the ones you really don't want to save you typically because they are shall we say somewhat callous towards humanity. But yeah, good point, Avani DK. All right, Pumpkin Historian says, in the Rogue Trader video game, you can construct a building on a planet that can take care of servitors, to the utter bewilderment of the Mechanicus.
Yeah.
Nice. Skitari Boy says, Data Smiths, or as I like to call them, Robot Dads. Yeah, Robot Dad's a really good one to do that. And Dubious Snowman says, abhor the clanker. Yes. Sebastian Butler, thank you for being a member. He says, hi, Ross and Alexis. How's your week been? It's been pretty good. Alexis?
Yeah, it's actually been pretty good. I got my ass stomped in an old world game today where I failed every single charge, and then all the charges that did succeed, I lost combat and lost the unit. It was terrible. I had to contact my better half, but I finally got the protocols. It's Spirit of the Machine, heed my will. Aegis protocol. Spirit of the Machine, heed my will. Conqueror protocol. And Spirit of the Machine, heed my will. Kill protocol. And nice. It's so good, and I love it.
Dynaman points out that he meant the servitor guided missile because the missile knows where it is, and because it knows where it is not.
That's an old meme.
Okay, all right, cool. Thanks for the. Sorry, I'm an old man, and sometimes I just get lost in about a touch. So I appreciate that.
He gets lost in the sauce.
Ooh,
I'm joking.
All right,
the sacred ungulants in this case.
So very, very briefly, I'm just going to talk about the dizzying amount of other Mechanicus military formations. So first of all, there's the Ordo Reductor. These are specialist war savant cadres, and they specialize in heavy cybernetic combat specialists, destruction experts. I'm sorry, no, that's wrong. They specialize in siegecraft, demolitions, shock assault, and super heavy weapons. The super heavy weapons division of the Ordo Reductor is the Centurio Ordinatus, and they field those one-of-a-kind super heavy war machines that are called Ordinatus.
Yep.
Then there's Good.
I want to add to that. That's where Thulia is.
Right. She's part of the Order Reductor, not the Centurio Ordinatus.
Yes.
But they are different. They are kind of under the same umbrella, but they are in fact different. There's the Basilican Astra. This is the fleet arm of the Adeptus Mechanicus. This is all their warships, their exploration fleets, things like that. This is where the Speranza and the Arch Mechanicus are part of, the Basilican Astra. In the 30K setting, there was a thing called the Tagmata Omnissiah, which was a command framework that was basically everything that was not Scutari or a Titan, and they were part of the expeditionary fleets. There's the Scutari. We talked about them. They are the Tech Guard, the cybernetic soldiers, the infantry, largely, of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Then there's the Secutari, which are the Titan Guard. They're attached to the Collegia Titanica. This is infantry that goes along with Titans.
That has to be a fun walk.
I know, right?
Boom. Boom.
There's the Titan Legions, also called this Collegia Titanica. These are the giant war machines that are, 50, 60 feet tall.
The god engines.
The god engines of Mars. They are one of the ultimate weapons of war on land in 40K. There's also the Questor Mechanicus, which are the Mechanicus aligned night houses. We have an episode on Let's Build the Night House where we talk about what those are, but we're going to have to cover night houses as a whole episode as well at some point.
Yeah, we do have to do Knights and Titans as their own separate episodes.
There's the Legio Cybernetica. We talked about them. They're the ones that control all the battle robots. There's the Auxilia Myrmidon. These are the specialist war savants. These are the heavy cybernetic combat specialists that I erroneously mentioned earlier. These Myrmidons and the whole deal with the Myrmidons, the Secutors, they come from Dark Heresy originally, and then they were adopted into Horus Heresy, and they've become a thing there. They are largely a 30K thing and not a 40K thing.
Yeah, they're sort of back, but not really. There's a unit that's similar to them called the Hastari.
Yeah.
But it's not them.
But
it's the Myrmidons that we have at home.
Then their individual tech priests can have their own personal armies. Fun fact. These are called battle congregations. And they're usually for like defending a particular forge or temple. They're also used for private wars in between tech priests. This does happen. Yep. And then there's the Prefecture Magisterium, which is their internal enforcement branch. This is the guys that punish techno-heresy. In the Calixus sector, there was also these guys called the Lord's Dragon who did something very similar to the Inquisition. They were like a internal secret police, and they had guys called Logicutioners, which I think is a great name. I wish more people would use it, but it's from the Dark Heresy. It's from the role-playing game, so you probably won't ever see you may not see a Logicutioner model for a very, very, very long time. But it's great.
GW dug deep to get a techno-archaeologist.
It's possible.
No.
All right.
Ross,
that is the broadest overview. Did I forget one?
There's something that comes from Graham McNeil himself.
Okay, what is it?
The Machine Touched. They're living saints.
Oh my god, that's right.
Yeah.
The Machine Touched. Oh Lord.
Tech priests can have living saints called Machine Touched. Granted, they don't show up that often, but they do exist.
That is, I think, just only in Black Library. I think we haven't seen that in any rule books or anything yet.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have never seen it in an actual codex yet. I will double check that right now because I'm curious. I know it comes from Graham McNeil.
But all of those things that I mentioned, all of those different subgroups, could be its own episode of Lorebeards 40K. That's why I'm just kind of going over it briefly before we move on, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about here. And then at the very, very bottom of all this stuff are the combat servitors that Alexis was talking about, and guys called tech thralls. Again, this is from 30K, not so much 40K, but tech thralls are very much like battle servitors. The Cataphron battle servitors, that's the ones you were talking about.
Yeah, Cataphron breachers and the oh my god. The breachers and the destroyers. There we go. I used my brain.
So the simplest way to think about this And I realize that this is not simple at all, but the simplest way to think about this is the Basilican Astra gets the Mechanicus to the war. The Skitarii fight the war on the ground as like an army. The battle congregations are the private armies of the tech priests. The Legio Cybernetica bring the robots. The Myrmidons bring elite specialists. The Ordo Reductor breaks fortresses. The Centuria Ordinatus deploys these giant war engines. The Questor Mechanicus brings you the Knights, which are basically like their heavy cavalry, and if you want to think of it that way, Knights are like small Titans. I mean, that's an extremely simplistic way to approach it. And I realize that there's a lot more nuance, but
they
basically
were originally called Night Titans, but yeah, they're really small.
So the Questor Mechanicus are the Knights, the Collegia Titanica is the Titans, the Secutarii protect the Titans, the Prefecture Magisterium are the police inside the Mechanicus, and the Tagmata Omnissiah was the 30K combined arms framework that kind of has been specialized out since that point. That is the
not confusing at all.
That is the simplest way to approach all that. Oh my God. Wow. That was their military structure. Skitarii Boy, I'm sure, is just sitting over here going, yes, tell me more.
I'd like to know more intensified.
Yes, the whole meme of I'd like to know more. Would you like to know more? Oh boy. All right. Do we want to answer some super chats, or do we want to move on to the priesthood and Thulia Gould and stuff like that?
2 right now, and one is from Skitarii Boy, so we will.
Skitarii Boy says the Secutarii can maglock their feet onto the legs of Titans to easily be transported and protect from things climbing on them.
That
sounds like a great job. Sounds like a great job. I would not want to be a Secutarii.
It has to be fun though. I would not want to be on a Warhound because Warhounds can run.
And it's important to point out that the Secutarii are not the same thing as Myrmidon Secutors, despite them having a very similar name.
Yeah, GW would never name 2 things very similarly and make them completely different.
Oh my God. Avani DK says, I found the source of the PTSD story. It's mentioned in Caves of Ice. So that's a Caiaphas Cain novel. Sigma Pavanis, there's an Imperial Guard Medicaid facility for guardsmen to rest until they're fit for duty again. The manufactorum that makes servitors on the planet is famous for their quality, and many of them are sent to serve with the Inquisition. It is the source of the term for PTSD in the Guard, going Siggy. Yeah, that's a Cain book. So treat that as, a little grain of salt. There's a big grain of salt there.
Well, Caiaphas Cain did just get a model.
He did. He's far more reliable than he used to be in lore. That's true. That's a good point.
Now, if they add him to the Guard Codex properly, I will lose my shit.
I would too. I would go nuts.
Because right now, I think he's a Legends model.
Necromancer Kobold says, it doesn't matter what your station is. Do not disrespect your AdMech allies if you don't want your resupply to start having delays and complications. Okay, so there is, well, to be clear, there's a thing called the Departamento Munitorum, which is the logistics side of the Imperial Guard and the Imperial Navy and most things that are not Space Marines. The Munitorum gets its stuff from the Mechanicus, but is not under the Mechanicus. It is under the Imperial military forces. So it gets a little complicated when you start talking about the delays and complications of resupply. But you're not wrong that there is a point along that chain that the Adeptus Mechanicus is involved, because they're the ones that make all the bullets anyway. But yeah, Departamento Munitorum deserves its own episode. Dear Lord. It's a complex web. I need that picture of Charlie Day with like all the little red strings and stuff, because it's a very complex web here.
It very much is.
All right, so that's our super chats. We're caught up there. Do you want to talk about Thulia Gould?
So unfortunately, there's not much to really go on for her right now. She's part of the what is that book? There's a book that came out for her pretty recently. Is there?
Yeah.
Because I haven't read it yet, so I do apologize, but
let me find the name of it. It's The Eye of Terror, Reign of Iron has got her in it.
Yeah, I have not read that yet.
That's brand new. Well, it's a brandy new campaign book, Eye of Terror, Reign of Iron.
Let me see if I can find her really quickly.
Well, I can talk about her if you want.
Yes, go for it.
So she's got some of the coolest titles in all of the Mechanicus. Thulia Gold, she's the newest named character. One of her titles is she is the Vox Dei of the Ordo Reductor. That's a really cool title.
That is a cool title.
Her other title is Archmagos Terminus, which, holy shit, that sounds awesome. She is native to Mars, and she holds the battlefield command rank of Dominus. We talked about that earlier, which is kind of like a general. She's a veteran of the Ordo Reductor, which is that subcult. The subcult of the Ordo Reductor, they venerate the Omnissiah as an avatar of destruction. Okay. And their Ordo Reductor is all about like reducing things to rubble, to raising it, to destroying it. Thulia Gold, she has spent centuries augmenting her body with blessed steel until she is this avatar of the cult Mechanicus. She is very much like towering over most tech priests.
I do think my favorite bit of lore about her is that Skitarii absolutely love her.
That's right. Continue. No, she has this absolutionist view of being a tech priest. She believes that the machine god has made her his instrument for the efficient prosecution of war. And that's it. So she scorns Call. She thinks Call is wasteful for spending all these time and resources on things like diplomacy and experimentation, when you could just be annihilating heretics.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things about her, though, is that she has a very close tie to the Fabricator General of Mars, and Call doesn't.
Yes.
But Call has Gilliman. But Gilliman, it's implied Gilliman doesn't like extremist views of absolute destroying of enemies. He prefers diplomacy.
This is from the use of destroyer companies during the Horus Heresy, during the Great Crusade, excuse me.
So there is an implication that Thulia and Call do not get along.
They definitely don't.
And which is hilarious because they're taken together in every single army list. Not only that, they both have independent, they both have Lonop. So they want to be stayed next to each other. So I imagine that they just hate each other and they're working together. But yeah.
Now, Call, he says that Gould, the Thulia, she dismisses any information or knowledge that cannot be weaponized against the Imperium's enemies. He's like, listen, you are way too focused, lady. But maybe despite this or because of it, we're not sure, he is deeply beloved amongst the Skitarii. They are the ones who gave her the title of Vox Dei, and they consider her to be the living emitter of the machine god's word. She is the General Patton of the Skitarii, okay?
Yeah.
Because she has this ideal of an unrelenting pursuit of victory. Which is cool. I mean, I like her.
Yeah, same. I absolutely love her.
Her most recent stuff is about the defense of the Forge World Agrippina, which is near the Cadian Gate. Following the fall of Cadia, we have a whole episode on the fall of Cadia, so go check that out. So she is tasked with repelling the forces of a Chaos Lord called Kryvek Morn. Is Chaos Lord, I'm correct about it? I don't know much about Kryvek
Chaos
Morn.
Lord is fine.
But she carries a Jericho class conversion resonator, which I don't know much about it beyond the name, but it sounds awesome. And a weapon called the Rod of the Warforge, which is a weapon that is described as having a data radius that makes nearby Skitarii units go berserk with battle fervor. They can shoot better, they can charge better, they can move and shoot better. It's a weird version of a marshal's baton, basically.
Now, one other cool thing about her and how this model harkens back to older editions of Warhammer 40k. In older editions of Warhammer, tech priests and tech marines used to be able to take conversion beam cannons. And that went away at the end of 5th edition. And it went away in Horus Heresy 1st edition. 2nd edition, you couldn't get it.
Conversion beamers are definitely a thing in 2nd edition.
No. They are a thing, but they can't be taken by tech priests and tech marines anymore. But now,
right, that is true.
Has it back, which is cool because it's a weapon that is uniquely hers now. I just wanted to bring that up because
it's really super cool. That. So I would like to briefly talk about tech heresy. It's one of my favorite things.
It's because he wants to commit tech heresy.
And to be clear, tech heresy is very broadly like any technological practice that the Adeptus Mechanicus says, this violates our religious laws. Sometimes tech heresy is things that they consider a threat to humanity, although that is less common. Anything that corrupts sacred machinery or bypasses the priesthood's monopoly on knowledge is definitely tech heresy. Okay. There's one thing that you can basically say is the clearest and most universal form of tech heresy, and that is AI, abominable intelligence, or the silica animus. That is the clearest, most common form of tech heresy. Is that?
Yeah.
But it is also considered tech heresy to create technology that interfaces with the warp or channels the warp in any way.
Which is weird because psychic hoods are a thing, but those are technically
also void
not...
shields.
Yeah, but both of those are technically predate the Mechanicum.
There's loopholes in all of this stuff. Okay, everything has loopholes, but if you have technology that channels the warp, that is often but not always considered tech heresy. Xenos tech, often but not always considered tech heresy, or using it. This also applies to things from the Dark Age technology that are not STCs, which are a form of AI, by the way, which is a very hypocritical stance for the Adeptus Mechanicus, because they love STC technology, which stands for Standard Template Constructs. They're a form of Dark Age technology that is kind of like a weird cross between a 3D printer and a blueprint, and can create tech for human colonized worlds.
It's the fabricator from Star Trek.
Replicator is what you mean, but yeah,
replicator.
Yeah. Often, but not always, any kind of unsanctioned innovation, modification, or reverse engineering is considered tech heresy. And prescribed biological engineering and transhuman experimentation. This is usually described as polluting or corrupting the holy essence of mankind.
Now it's totally fine to do that for tech, for servitors. That's totally cool. And making lobotomized babies is totally cool.
Listen, you can replace your flesh with tech all you want. That's fine. But the instant you start cloning people or upgrading people with genetic enhancements who are not Space Marines, because that is totally a thing that Space Marines are, but that's fine because the Emperor did it. Anyway, it's suffice to say, if you start messing around with changing the genome of the human body, or if you start like introducing specific mutations or glands or things like that, although again there are loopholes like the gland warriors, which we have talked about on this channel, the Afriel strain, which is they're essentially versions of abhumans. We talked about them on this channel before.
Those weird clone creatures from Hammer and Bolter.
And lastly, if you are hoarding technical knowledge and keeping it from Mars, that is also broadly considered tech heresy. But again, each Forge World handles this differently. Each subcult of the Mechanicus handles this differently, and they vary in degree. Like some people are like, it's a minor tech heresy, and some people are like, that is the worst. So,
and of course, there are some diplomats, let's call them, that are immune to the influences of the machine cult, such as things like rogue traders hoarding a bunch of Xenos tech or STC constructs and all this other shit, where the tech priesthood will find a way with their own assassinorum, because they have one of those.
They do.
They have assassins that they send after certain political parties to deal with, and it's great, and I love it.
Back in the RPG, we defined some of the biological tech heresy as things like chimerics, homunculites, and golems, which were all various forms of servitors or clones, or the chimerics were mixing human and Xenos genes, for example, and these were all considered in the Calixtus sector. These were all considered highly unacceptable, to be very clear.
Now, keep in mind, they do varying degrees of cloning is deemed heretical, but not when they do it. When they do it, it's perfectly fine.
There's a lot of blurred lines when it comes to a lot of this stuff, to be very clear. It gets very complicated and nuanced when it comes to what is and what is not tech heresy. This is actually technically true in the ecclesiarchy on the side of the Imperium. Like, what is heresy is often depended on which cardinal or which world or which cult of the imperial cult you are part of.
Yeah.
So,
and one of my favorite things is if you are in possession of tech heresy, but you are being arrested by an Arbite, you are not being arrested because of tech heresy. You're being arrested because you are witnessing a heretical object and in possession of a heretical object. So I love all the little crossovers and everything between heresy, what's illegal in the Imperium, and what is considered like tech heresy in the Imperium. And then if you happen to just turn gold and grow magic wings and come back to life, then you're deemed a saint. If you happen to have bionic parts, you're considered machine touched. And if you are more organic, like a Sister of Battle, then you are clearly a living saint. There's also instances where you can be declared a saint, which is different than a living saint, and
right,
you get off the hook.
Usually posthumous.
Yeah.
The tech priesthood, we talked about the servitors and all that and the way that they treat the Imperium. The tech priests of Mars and the Imperium are both they are simultaneously allied co-empires and intertwined so significantly that it's difficult to tell one from the other. But there are some very important differences in that, like the tech priests do not technically answer to anyone outside of the tech priesthood and the emperor. And there's a great example of this where there's a story about this Imperial Guard liaison force that had this audience with Amajos. And the Imperial Guard liaison is like, my Lord Colonel requests every asset for the war effort. And the Majos is like, great. So we're going to take all of you, that is the Imperial Guard delegation, and we're going to make you war servitors. Congratulations. You are now part of the every asset of the war effort.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord Colonel is like, I need tanks and bullets, so I can't be mad about this. Oh my God. It gets wild.
Oh, I almost spilled my drink. That could have ended very poorly.
Listen, we got way more super chats today. It's pretty great.
Yes,
is this where we left off? Okay.
Yes.
Pumpkin Historian says, because the Emperor allowed the Mechanicus to coexist, what do you think was the Emperor's plan with the Mechanicus if the Horus Heresy didn't happen?
Oh, you ready for a conspiracy, Ross? I've been waiting for this question.
Go for it.
Okay, so hear me out. The Emperor cut a deal with the Void Dragon shard on Mars. Now, originally, when that lore was written, the Void Dragon on Mars was actually just the god itself, and it wasn't sharded. Since then, we can assume that it is a shard of the Void Dragon.
See our 40K Mysteries episode if you want to know more about all this.
Now, this is wild speculation by a crazed fan, all right? So keep that in mind. Giant grain of salt, so big that... Damn. Anyway. So I think that the Emperor
that is a cartload of salt.
Yes. The Emperor created the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Mechanicus, as a way of giving the Void Dragon ways to power itself up so that the Emperor and the Void Dragon can then unify to destroy the Necron threat. Okay, because the Emperor wasn't dumb, and we do know that the Necrons were apparently active in the heresy, only some of them, because the Silent King met with Sanguinius, which is still a very weird story, and I want that explained, please. Because, like, did he take a break? But anyway, my crazy tinfoil hat theory is that the Mechanicus is a way, regardless of whether or not it's allied with the Void Dragon or not, is a way of dealing with the Necron threat. Because even in the Mechanicus games and a lot of the Mechanicus lore, especially involving the Necrons, it's showing that while the Necrons have this hyper advanced technology, the human innovating spirit of and the human drive of the Mechanicus is actually starting to beat them. And it's one of those things where they're like, oh, we're a little bit more desperate, and they have to use the Void Dragon at some points or the Nightbringer to actually keep the Mechanicus at bay. Um, I I think that was the Emperor's plan, was to always have an ace in a hole to defeat or learn from the Necrons and destroy them. But again, huge tinfoil hat theory. This is assuming that the Emperor is competent, which, as we know, is not really a thing.
He is profoundly flawed, as we say very commonly on this show.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is your crazy theory?
My understanding is that the most popular theory, and this is one I've had and talked to people about, is that after, assuming the Horus Heresy didn't break out, then you would have a successful Great Crusade, you'd have a successful Webway project, and then the Emperor would have gradually broken the independence of the Mechanicum from in terms of their politics and their religion. He would have replaced it with something more regulated, more secular. And here's why. There's 4 things. Okay, number 1, Mars was way too useful to confront during the Great Crusade. Yes. He needed the Forge Worlds, he needed the fleets, he needed the shipyards, he needed the Titans, he needed all that stuff. So that alliance required compromise, and that's why the Mechanicus has a large degree of autonomy, even if it is not fully autonomous. Number 2, it is believed, and I still believe this, that the Emperor does not actually share the religion of the Tech Priests of Mars. That his imperial truth, as shown in the Horus Heresy, was meant to replace religion, right, with secular stuff. But the cult of the Mechanicus was tolerated because it was useful and already deeply embedded with all of the stuff on Mars. So it's a political bargain, I believe. Number 3, if the Webway project was successful, this would have changed the balance of power. It would have reduced dependence on navigators. It would have secured the most urgent needs of the military and logistics, because you could just transport all that stuff through the Webway. And the Emperor could finally look at, subordinating the Mechanicus, dismantling the institutions that he only tolerated because he had to. And the final result, number 4, is that it would probably be a very secular technical core, not a cult at the end of all of that. That is my theory. That's what I think would probably happen.
All right. I like it. Next one.
Divius Noman says, I did not realize the Psychic Scourge or Power Source from Space Marine was an instance of tech heresy. It absolutely is.
So funny enough, there is a throwaway line in Space Marine 1, because that game was in production when the Mechanicus were being put out. So they didn't exist yet. So one of the throwaway lines in the beginning of the game is an entire Forge World and not a tech priest in sight. They died first. It's just a throwaway line. And normally you don't hear the second half of that. You have to wait around for like a few minutes to hear both halves of that conversation.
Yeah, it's again, it is technically tech heresy, although there are loopholes, obviously.
Yeah, that was an Inquisitor doing it, so it's
fine. The Inquisition has a great deal of power, and they can sometimes override Forge Worlds and stuff like that. So there you go. Iceman says, cheers for the stream. I cannot stay as I'm going to go look at a house to buy. Hey, that's awesome, man. First time home ownership. I am in
You can own a house in this? Hell, go for it.
Yeah, good luck. Wish me luck. Good luck. And pray to the Omnissiah and Void Father, which is what these Carcharodons call the Emperor, for me. I will. Yeah. Good job, Iceman. That's awesome. Elemental Exposure says, what might be a demon like Celestine for the Mechanicus?
The Machine Touched, but as far as we know, they're only in books, and it's only ever mentioned in a Graham McNeil novel. That's kind of it. There's literally nothing else about it. It's kind of a throwaway line. I don't want to sound rude to Graham McNeil, but it's never come up in anything else I've found. I've actually searched the lexiconum for it and it doesn't even appear. So huge grain of salt, probably not canon.
So there's actually several examples of what you might consider a demon for the Mechanicus. Possibly the most well-known one is a thing called scrap code.
Yeah.
Now, scrap code is something that exists pretty much only in the novels and mostly in the Dan Abnett novels. So again, it's kind of in that Daniverse area of lore. But basically, it's a warp-infected malicious code that gets into all the Mechanicus systems and can usually shut down communications and sometimes subordinate machines to its will. Okay. Then you've got things like demon engines, defilers or obliterators. Specifically, like chaos titans are also like they definitely consider those to be like the worst possible thing, because god engines are like the idols of the Omnissiah, right? They are like the walking representation of their faith. To see one of those corrupted into a chaos titan is horrible to them. It is one of the worst things that can happen.
Scrap code is mentioned in the codex.
Okay, is it? Okay, good. So scrap code is now a thing. This is what happens: is that it gets filtered through the novels and then eventually gets picked up and put into the core books.
The only codex that it is in is Codex Demonkin from 8th edition.
Yeah, I mean it's still there. That's still valid, I think, to say that.
Yeah, I would say it's valid.
So yeah, things like Brass Scorpions, Vashtor, those are all demons for the Mechanicus.
Yeah.
Necroret Scobold says, what's scarier about the Mechanicus? What we don't know what or how much Dark Age they have squirreled away without anyone's knowledge. That's true. They have lots and lots and lots of tech that they are keeping in vaults and hidden. And it is almost a guarantee that they have all kinds of crazy shit in the vaults on Mars. We know that the Emperor has tons of crazy shit in the vaults of Terra.
And we know that the Dark Angels also have
tons of crazy shit. Have tons of crazy shit, yeah. So there are several groups that have hoarded pieces of Dark Age technology just within the Imperium, and that's not even counting stuff like Leagues of Votan or Rogue Traders and stuff like that. So it can get weird. But the Mechanicus specifically, we definitely know they have some really awful stuff that could be released. Not for nothing. There's probably somewhere a cogitator with scrap code on it on Mars. Almost certainly, I would say, in the vault somewhere. They've got like an isolated data vault. They call them data vaults, where there's just like tons and tons of basically computer viruses, if you want to think of it, that are created by the work.
I don't like any of that.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good, does it?
No.
That's the last of the super chats. So, all right, we have talked about a lot of stuff today. Do you want to hear about some of the most obscure and crazy lore?
Yeah, of course.
This is some of my favorite shit. There's a forge world called Venatoria, and they developed a weapon that was basically trying to get rid of. It was a weapon against reality itself. They developed what are called cage fields of pure law and reason. They were intended to increase real space's resistance to warp energy, which, as you already know, this borders on tech heresy, if not actual tech heresy.
No, it's against it, so it's totally fine.
They were banned from testing it in ordinary space, so they went into the Eye of Terror to do this, and only 3 of them ever came back alive. And those guys, they tried to make some sort of reality bomb that would seal the Eye of Terror.
Oh my god, I know what joke this is.
And they tried it near the Maelstrom, and it definitely did not work. This is from the Codex, and it's presented as like a rumor about disasters rather than a confirmed successful anti-warp technology test, because it definitely is not that. But they tried. They definitely tried.
Now, Ross, do you know what that could be a joke about?
What?
That could be the reality bomb from Doctor Who.
Oh, it could. Yeah. That's true. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, because GW is not above making joke items of other
Oh,
things,
no.
like the Holy Hand
God, no.
Grenade of Antioch is
It's
in
the
the fourth.
Black Templar's Codex. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for sure. There was a thing called a Lost Forge world called Nullivar, and it has re-emerged, and it apparently is a fully functional thing. But it was believed lost during the Great Crusade. So apparently, this planet was isolated for like 10,000 years, and they're back, and they have their own agenda, which is deliberately presented as a open mystery. It's kind of like the Cylons have a plan. That's
Mm-hmm.
Nullivar, which I think is really cool.
The
And
Holy
then,
Hand Grenade of Antioch is also in Trench Crusade. Yeah, that makes sense.
of course, there's the Forge World of Graia, which we know from Space Marine 1 and Space Marine 2.
Yeah.
And this is where they recovered an Arch Mechanicus, and then the entire expedition vanished, which is pretty cool. There was a rock, an orbital asteroid full of orcs, basically, that had been built around this Arch Mechanicus, and they got rid of all the orcs and the enslaved humans that were working for the orcs. I mean, would you rather be a servitor or be a slave to the orcs?
Slave to the orcs.
Yeah, I think
Like,
you're right.
because here's the thing. They're gonna either enslave you forever, beat you to death, or eat you.
Right.
And all of those are fairly quick. Like that is a humane death in 40K.
I mean, it's wild that we consider that better than becoming a servitor.
It's kind of like you have a servant of all 4 ruinous powers running towards you in 4 different directions. Which way do you run? Which one do you run towards? And it's like you don't run towards the Slanesh one because that's horrific. You don't run towards the Zinch one because you don't want to turn into a spaghetti monster. You don't run towards the Nurgle one because you don't want to mutate horribly. And the World Eater will just kill you.
I might run towards the Slaneshi one. I mean, not gonna lie, sex, drugs, rock and roll. I mean, it could be okay, at least for a little bit.
Let's hope it's not an Inferno and Raptoress.
Right. So this explorer fleet that they sent out to pick up the Arch Mechanicus, though, they cleansed. They killed all the orcs, and they started back from the position, but then they were just gone, and nobody knows what happened. They just found like pieces of a drifting fleet embedded amongst all this frozen rock and wreckage from some sort of conflict, and the ships had Graia's insignia still on them. So it's a mystery, but I think it's kind of a neat one. And the Mechanicus, they actually started a 3-way conflict with Graia. This is kind of fun. So Graia was exploiting an asteroid belt called the Rust Fields. They found orcs there because, of course, they did, because it's Graia.
It's orcs. And
they thought, okay, well, it's fine. We'll just mount an orc killing expedition. But then they found out that the orcs were already fighting Votankin from the Trans-Hyperion Alliance. So you get this 3-way battle amongst the asteroid belt, which is kind of rad. We talked about how the Castellan robots are actually like 10,000 years old. And some of these machines have no known Forge World allegiance. They have like markings of Forge Worlds that nobody's ever seen.
Yep.
It's pretty wild.
One of my favorite things is the Vorax Battle Automata, where they were crazy robots. Like so bad that they had to destroy some of them at the end of battles because they would go on killing sprees and want to keep killing.
All right. And now we need to talk about the Iron Strider engines. Okay. These are stilt-legged walkers, basically, that the Adeptus Mechanicus uses. Or sorry, the Skitarii use, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And the platform incorporates, this is going to be super fun. The platform incorporates a blind and limbless monotask servitor as an interface between the rider and the engine. And the interface keeps the machine's core always moving. It's a perpetual motion dynamo.
Yeah, they don't know how to stop it, so they keep it in kennels where it runs in circles forever. Now, this thing has an unfortunate nickname, which there's 2 nicknames for this particular war machine. There's the Battle Chicken.
Ah, there we go. Yep.
The Battle Chicken or the Sex Robot. And
Well, it could be worse.
I'm gonna show you the reason why it's called the second. And it's nothing inappropriate, but it is kind of hilarious that there is just a guy in a gimp suit on it. Let me just get the model really quickly so I can find it. Where are you? It's also one of their best units, which is hilarious. Oh, whoops! I clicked the wrong one. Ah, there we go. Hang on. We got this. So let me get
Technical
the 3D.
difficulties on a show about the Adeptus Mechanicus is just chef's kiss.
It's beautiful.
It's so apt.
Okay, so this is from the GW website itself.
There it is.
But if you happen to notice this little guy in a gimp suit right here.
Oh God, it is. Oh my Lord.
Yes, it's a guy in a gimp suit. They snuck that into a Warhammer model.
Oh.
And now you see it. You can never unsee it.
Being a servitor absolutely sucks.
Yep.
So,
I love it.
Another piece of obscure lore is actually about servitors, because it does not always mean convicted criminal. Although that is that is like the standard that the Adeptus Mechanicus like says, oh, they're all convicted criminals. It's fine. They deserve it, right? But the actual creation rights, they vary from Forge World to Forge World. And some servitors are just fat-grown bodies out of artificial gene gruel. Some are ordinary humans. But the bottom line is that the Mechanicus treats a organic body as raw material. And if they can reduce that body down to a brainstem or even less for a specialized job, they will just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the fact that when a servitor starts to fall apart, the mechanical components, those are carefully reclaimed. They are repaired. But the biological parts, they just get chucked.
Yep.
The flesh is expendable when the associated machinery is sacred. So lastly, for Skitarii boy, I'm sorry to tell you, Skitarii enhancement can be an honor, but it can also be a punishment. And it is almost certainly an indoctrination pipeline, because, as we said, all the Skitarii treat every command as religious dogma, right? They are fully in. They're 100% in. They are locked in, if you will, to the Omnissiah cult, the cult of the machine god. And some Skitarii, like we said, can be techno-barbarian tribes. They can also be Vakron. They can also be cloned. They can also be made from mind-wiped convicts. So you can have a penal legion of guardsmen suddenly get turned into Skitarii. Sometimes anybody who surrenders or is considered a deserter, they can become Skitarii. If you're like a lowly menial guy on Mars and your job is to like shovel coal into an engine, and you're like, thank God I'm not a Skitarii, and somebody comes around and is like, sorry, thank God I'm not a servitor, and somebody comes around and says, hey, would you like to be a Skitarii? They're usually like, hell yes, that is an upgrade. That is a big upgrade. So it can be like an ennoblement. It can be like, I am no longer just a peasant. I am now a soldier. I am a man at arms for the machine god. So those are some really fun facts. I love the Mechanicus, and they have some of the weirdest, crazy lore throughout. So
yeah, they do. They're absolutely insane, and it's great.
Oh, another fun fact: a tech priest can be literally headless. The Codex notes that some tech adepts dispense with their heads entirely. They just put their brain in a jar. They neural interface that brain back into the body, and they're fine. And which is absolutely crazy.
Some tech priests even have multiple brains.
If you've seen Astartes and you've seen the guy with the digital face, that is something that they do sometimes. They will just replace their entire face with optics. But more often, it's like rebreathers and cranial implants and sensory arrays. So most tech priests don't really have a face. They just have stuff where their face would be. And there are some that just flat out don't have heads. So there you go. Oh, my God. Do we have super chats to read? We have, it looks like, membership from Nils Andre. Thank you so much.
Yes,
your thoughts on Forge World Branks Minor from Darktide?
It's pretty cool. They make the weird steel. and it's like a collection of moons, right? I believe. I don't know too much about Darktide, so I do apologize. I don't play it as much as I should.
I've played some, but I have not played nearly enough. It's pretty cool. It is. There's a lot more lore. We should probably cover. I want to start covering the video games. And if we did an episode on Darktide, we could actually get really in deep on Branks Minor, because there's a lot going on there. It's pretty cool. There's obviously Skitarii, there's industrial stuff, there's all the Forge World things that you would expect, mining and refining and manufacturing, and the Mechanicus, obviously they have a big presence there. But yeah, we'll just have to talk about it when we talk about Darktide. Basically, they make their own patterns of gear. There's like Brakes pattern this, Brakes pattern that, because they come from Brinks Minor. It's a great name. I'm a fan.
I'm trying to find anything else about that, but unfortunately, yeah, it's just Darktide stuff. I don't know enough. I'm sorry.
All right, so I want to get into some of the fan theories and headcanon, but before we do that, I have some questions that I think we need to go over. Alexis.
Oh, I found it. Yes.
What'd you find?
Okay, I'm gonna try to do this in one take. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready. My body's ready.
From the moment I understood the weakness of my flesh, it disgusted me. I craved the strength and certainty of steel. I aspire to the purity of the blessed machine. Your kind clings to your flesh as if it will not decay and fail you. One day, the crude biomass you call a temple will wither and you will beg for my kind to save you. But I am already saved, for the machine is eternal.
That's rad. That is
God, I love
so
that
cool.
so much.
That's rad. All right, so the first question that I have, based on everything that we've talked about so far, do you think the Adeptus Mechanicus actually understands technology? And if so, to what degree?
Okay. Oh, we also missed the super chat.
Did we? Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, elemental exposure. Last question. Is Excel heresy? It could solve so much. I
don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it'd be fine. It seems like it would be fine, but I'm certain that there are Forge Worlds where it is actual heresy, and they are like, if it's not written on paper with a quill from a guy whose arms are prepared just to write with quills, it doesn't count. I'm sure that's true, but
from an auto quill.
In the larger sense, there's organizational software is probably fine.
Okay, ask the question again.
All right. Do you think the tech priesthood actually understands technology, and if so, to what degree?
Okay. In short answer is no, but.
Okay.
Long answer is, while I don't believe that the entire organization understands that technology at all, I do believe that there is an understanding and an underlying understanding of how the technology works and is built, but it's so ingrained into their religion that even if they were to explain it to outsiders, those outsiders would not understand how it is different than their explanation of them of the religious explanation. They believe it works, and then they could explain how it works, but they would explain it in a way that sounds ceremonial. And I think that the higher up you go within the tech priesthood, the more you actually understand, and the more you see how dangerous it is to understand certain technologies within the Imperium. So the more you understand, the more you try to keep secret, if that makes sense.
I mean, I think there's cases for both mostly no and yeah, kinda. So I put up a poll for our chat for our lore seekers to vote on so we can see what they think.
And if you don't understand how this the voting in chat actually works, you type either 1 or 2 for your answer, and it will appear on the screen.
Correct. And it's for both Twitch and YouTube.
Yes.
So here's the case for mostly no. the Codex and the lore books have told us for decades at this point that real understanding has been buried under religious ceremony.
Yes.
And we know that they fear any kind of modification and innovation, and that if you're not part of their cult, you are not supposed to be working with technology. And we know that they can't recreate a lot of ancient tech, and that's a core part of their identity. So that's the case for mostly now.
I do have a question on that, though.
Mm-hmm.
Is it that they can't replicate the technology, or is it that they don't want to out of fear of being heretical or heretical?
Column A, column B. I mean, some of it is because
'Cause
they can't, and some of it is because they don't want to. You're right.
we see that Belisarius Call can innovate and even create new technology.
But he's also ostracized for it and
Yes.
considered an absolute, he's considered an extremist.
Yeah, so I do agree with you that it is mostly no, but I do think that there are outliers that understand technology. And now, what's your answer for kinda yeah?
So yeah, kinda is, well, we know the Forge Worlds make all this shit. They make starships and Titans and all this big scale industrial stuff. The tech priests do carry out very sophisticated work on biological materials and energy and gravitics and new spherics. I mean, they have some really advanced stuff that they work with a lot. And when you talk about their rituals, that may be stuff like safety procedures or calibration or encryption, quality control, right?
Yeah.
That outsiders misunderstand. So I feel like you can answer this question both ways. You can say, no, they don't actually understand it. It's a religion that just happens to work most of the time because 10,000 years of figuring out what works is where they are now, right? But there's also a case where you're like, they may not admit it, but they do kind of understand some tech, at least in the fact that they can build stuff, maintain stuff, and occasionally in weird circumstances like call or, the development of the few new things we have seen, innovate and modify. So, I mean, it can go either way. Let's see what chat says. You guys got 30 seconds and I will close this poll out. We have a couple of new super chats as well. I can read those while we're waiting.
Yeah, we do.
Skitari Boy says, I believe joining the Skitari is often seen by the masses on Forge Worlds as a way to become a tech priest. No, Skitari are not tech priests. They are soldiers who work for the tech priests. Though, of course, it never happens in reality. I mean, it is a step closer. It is definitely a step up for a lot of people to become a Skitari. Then again, it is not always voluntary. But good point. And Ricky Chapman says, how does one become a tech priest? You just walk up and ask to join? No. It's like any organized religion. You start out at the very bottom and earn your way up through, working for the right people or just being around when somebody above you dies and you're like, well, you're into the new tech priest. Honestly, there's very little information on how you become a tech priest. It is a little bit of a blank spot in the lore. So, all right, I'm going to shut down the poll. We have a pretty clear winner, and the chat has said 67% say mostly no, they don't understand, and 33% well, kind of. That's legit. I think those are both reasonable points to make there.
Also, for some reason, there's a lot of stuff saying that abhumans can become tech priests.
No,
yeah, that's just incorrect.
That is
Sorry,
not true.
I had to check with Lexiconum, but that's just incorrect.
That's not true. Yeah. Lexiconum is often right, but it is not always right.
Yeah, that's why I always double check, and then I check the source, and it's not what they are quoting here. And there's even a thing that says citation needed. So, I wanted to make sure we got that.
Elemental Exposure says the Caiaphas Cain book gives some insight. This is about Felicia, I'm presuming. I would caution you about using the Caiaphas Cain books as core lore, because they are very much a humorous, lighthearted look at the universe through the lens of a guy who admits that he's a coward and a liar. So just it's very much on the fringe.
I I can't view him as a coward. Dude fought 2 World Eater
According to
berserkers.
him, he did.
Yeah.
According to his Inquisitor girlfriend, he did. But we know that the Inquisition can lie and has lied. So, did he? Maybe, possibly. It sure made for an interesting book and a very good story. So I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Here's another question I thought would be important to talk about, and that is the machine god real?
Whoa.
We have a whole episode on the power of faith. Go check that out. I'm going to bring up the poll while Alexis has her existential crisis.
Okay. So, yes, there are multiple machine gods that exist within Warhammer 40K. Is the Omnissiah just another name for
the Omnissiah is
Void
the
Dragon?
Emperor, so there's that. Well, supposedly the Emperor.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the machine god specifically.
Oh, that's a tough one. If it is the Emperor, then yes. If not, I want to say then it has to be the Void Dragon.
The Void Dragon seems like, I mean, again, this is all implied. This is pure speculation with some implication from the lore. But the Void Dragon definitely seems to influence the Mechanicus. But the machine god could be kind of like the Talva. It could be like a warp entity that's formed through belief rather than anything else. Maybe that is the source of the so-called machine spirits. Maybe that is the machine touched, is the emergence of an actual warp deity. Because this has happened. We talked about how the Emperor could have become a god because of all the worship over 10,000 years. Could that also be true for the machine god?
Also, I did find out what pseudo branch becomes tech priests. They have to be tech acolytes.
Right.
And that specific branch can become tech priests.
Okay.
But that is according to Wolfbane and what is this one? Belisarius Call the Great Works novel, which is the most current lore for the tech priesthood. So there's that. You could become a tech acolyte.
You have to be admitted. You have to be admitted into the priesthood. We know that.
Tech adepts, tech priests,
and we know
acolytes. Yeah,
and we know that the priesthood is very hierarchical, but it's also kind of meritocratic. Like it does tend to recognize people from their ability, but there are politics in play too. You have to be part of one of the Mechanicus institutions. Clearly, you have to be, in a forged temple or a manufactorum or aboard one of their fleets. But yeah, it's unclear, and I think again it probably varies by Forge World. And again, the Adeptus Mechanicus is 10,000 cults in a single red trench coat. So
yeah,
there's probably 8 billion ways to do it. We just don't know exactly what they are. All right, but going back to is the machine god real? I mean, 40K does not provide a clean answer for this. The Codex says that the machine god, the Omnissiah, and the Motive Force are a sacred trinity. But the faction's actual practices, they blur a lot of these lines. Is it theology? Is it engineering? Is it just institutional power? There's the cyber theurgy, which is a whole thing in 30K, which is kind of awesome. And I really want to talk about
magic.
Yeah, I want to talk about that at some point. So I don't know. What's your opinion?
So I want to say yes, but I want to put a caveat on it that Asterix might be the Emperor, might be the Void Dragon. It might be a combination of both that are manipulating their entire culture. I personally am under the belief system that the Mechanicum has always been manipulated, and that is one of the greatest betrayals of them, is that the Emperor betrayed them. And by doing so,
that was Kelbor Hall's position during the Schism on Mars.
I agree with him, because I think Kelbor Hall figured out that the Emperor created them in order to serve him, and just allows them autonomy now, but won't in the future.
Lore tells us that Kelbor Hall was mostly upset about the loss of autonomy. That he was like, "We're going to be part of his structure. We're not going to have our own structure."
Now, was he
But
looking into the future or current?
yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I'm stopping the
Yeah.
poll. We have a clear winner. Yeah, kinda. The machine god is real. 71%. It's a legit point of view. I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
it is not.
There are kind of acts of faith when it comes to machines. Like the machine spirit activating has been in books before, like land raiders activating on their own, rhinos self-repairing themselves. Uh
Yeah,
what was it? Titan systems activating after the Princep has died or the
those are
Scion
all.
has died in
There's
the case
stories
of the
of
knight.
knights that activate and do their own thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's absolutely tons of apocryphal stories of
Yes.
the machine god being real and machine spirits being real. So maybe.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
then there's what Ricky Chapman is saying here. I'm going to bring up this one first. There's another, I will get to Skatari Boys one as well. But according to UR0225, he says the machine god does exist.
And that is the Man of Iron robot
Yep.
from
The
Blackstone
Blackstone
Fortress.
Fortress books and the board game itself.
Now, there's no reason an abominable intelligence would want to lie, right? There's no way that it would tell us something that wasn't true, right?
Well, the weird thing is the
It wouldn't
context that
hallucinate details about something that didn't actually exist, right?
the context for it, I think, is what is important. And it is inner dialogue that he's discussing with himself. So is he tricking himself? Was the higher ups that programmed him put that into his brain? Is it a Futurama moment where it's like, we don't know how a robot thinks or moves or anything? And then, Professor Farnsworth is like, it's right here in your programming, you know? So he could have been programmed to think that. It's a tough choice. And then we got another one from Skatari Boy.
He says Kepra in Mechanicus is a former Scutari who, at least in Mechanicus 2, has become a full on tech priest. Hey, on that Forge world, that may be a valid path.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of unclear. So it may just be for that particular Forge world or that particular temple. Sometimes there's 10,000 cults in a trench coat, and we don't know what the universal thing is. It's certainly possible. Let's put it this way. It's certainly possible for a Skitarii to become a tech priest. So I'm not going to deny that. I'm just going to say it's very unlikely, and it depends on like a very permissive Forge world to do that because Skitarii are very focused in their role within the Mechanicus.
Yeah.
Again, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other.
I
Thing, but
do want to bring up this tech adept thing and just explain what they are.
sure.
Tech adepts are chosen by tech priests. It's not stated by how they're chosen by tech priests, but they are chosen by tech priests. And they typically are their underlings, and they are mentored by a tech priest until they themselves become tech priests or are appointed to become tech priests. There are institutions that they could be studying upon in Mars. They could be studying, and a tech priest is like, "Are you smart? Do you know how to use your brain? Yes. Okay, you're coming with me." So it's not unlikely that a Skitarii can be picked if that Skitarii shows a particular field of study that is liked by a tech priest. So they could pick them. So I'm saying that there is possibility for it, though the official lore doesn't point to that. But Mechanicus and Mechanicus 2 are considered more canon games because they are newer. So yeah, but also no. So yes.
Yes, but no. It's the answer. I think
Yeah, it's a yeah, that could happen.
it could happen. It absolutely could. I consider it unlikely, but the lore evolves. It changes over time, and it may be that this is the new direction forward. So,
Well, again, back in the day, Skitarii were just mindless slaves, and now they have autonomy.
or they're techno barbarians, or they're
Yeah.
clones, or I mean, there's all these different versions of them, right?
Hmm.
Let's talk about cyber theurgy. Do you want to hear about cyber theurgy?
The magic of the machine, which is definitely not just the hacks from Cyberpunk, right?
I mean, they share a lot in common with the idea of like quick hacks. Okay.
Yep.
And this, to be clear, this is a discipline practiced by guys called cybertheurgists from the 30K era. This is a Mechanicum thing. It hasn't really shown up in the 40K era yet, at least to my knowledge.
As the only thing I can think of is the data assassins still somewhat practice it, but we don't know if they exist in 40K is the problem. We assume they
I'm
do
pretty sure they
because the
do.
Venom
Yeah.
Temples do.
No, they're pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they do because they've been featured in novels and things as being contemporary. But
okay, then that's the only one I can think of as pointing to and being like,
really want to talk about the Officio Assassinorum. Really, it's been on the polls a number of times. I really want to talk about it. All right, so getting back to cybertheurgy, this is presented in the lore of the Horus Heresy as being potent and strange to the point that it resembles psychic powers.
Yep.
Their abilities are called arcana, and it's described as unleashing things called data gens that corrupt systems, they overload power cells, and can turn an enemy's weapons against them. It's a pretty wild thing. It is a very rare art, and it lets them have this extraordinary influence over technology in general. It is often compared to something like technomancy because its effects can seem completely uncanny, just like a psychic power, but it is framed as an arcane technological discipline rather than an ordinary psychic tradition. I mean, it's definitely very reminiscent of the quick hack type stuff because it is the Mechanicum sanctions it. They think it's fine, and they consider it kind of part of their machine command systems. Like usually it's related to the Legio Cybernetica stuff. And this is it is not, do not confuse this with scrap code. It is very different than scrap code. It does not
scrap code is on par with demon magic virus.
Yeah, now scrap code can do a lot of the same things as cybertheurgy can, which is interesting, and it does suggest that there's possibly a link between them. There is a risk to cybertheurgy. It's dangerous because if it pushes machines past their normal constraints, and if you screw things up, you can cause what's called cybertheurgic feedback, and it might injure the operator, damage the robot, or make the machine break free and rampage, berserking, attacking any of the closest target.
Ross, what does that sound like?
I mean, it sounds like magic from Warhammer Fantasy is what it sounds like.
Does it sound an awful lot like, cyber psychosis, maybe?
And it does look supernatural because the Majos basically just gestures, they broadcast some sort of binaric chant, and then the enemy tank's ammunition cooks off. Or a robot suddenly just starts running at super speed. It's framed as a technological religious mastery over technology. It's like, I am the master of all tech. What's curious about this is that it does not exist in 40K. Like somewhere along the line, either this was lost or it was forbidden or corrupted. And I just find that interesting. It's a fascinating idea about the link between scrap code and normal techno sorcery, if you will, or the new spheric link that we hear these guys talk about, which is again very much like a very limited short range Wi-Fi network. Basically, is what the new sphere. That is a very extremely simplified version of what it is.
Man, a cyberpunk netrunner would have the time of their life obliterating like the Mechanicus.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. I always play netrunners in Cyberpunk 2077.
Well, yeah, but that's what the data assassin is based off of. It's based off a netrunner from Cyberpunk.
I mean, the concept, like a super hacker. We desperately need to talk about those guys, and I wish I had prepared more on them because this would be a great time to segue into that.
Yeah, it would be.
Oh my god. There's a lot of other questions we can ask. Like, are the machine spirits real, or are they just software? Is innovation heresy, or is that just an oversimplification? Are the Skitarii people, or soldiers, or slaves, or all three? Skitarii Boy wants to know that answer, I'm sure. There are multiple origins for the Skitarii. And I think, those are questions that we have a show called Lore Court. We should probably maybe look into that as a place. to discuss some of these questions. But the last one I want to ask before we talk about some other things is, do you think that you are liberating yourself as a tech priest by becoming more like a machine? And there is older lore that suggests that when a tech priest achieves a certain level of machinehood, that they upload their consciousness into a machine altar and become part of the new sphere, or become part of the Omnissiah.
You know, they become part of the what is it called?
The
The
Votan?
Eldar thing. No,
Oh,
the
the
Eldar
Infinity
thing.
Circuit. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's a strange version of the Infinity Circuit thing.
Now,
But
speaking of the Votan, I do want to talk about the connections between the tech adepts of Mars and the Votan,
okay, let's do
because
that. That's better
they
than my
are
question, I think.
they are way more connected than anything. But I do want to answer your question first.
Okay.
There is an old story where a tech priest gets to the point where he's about to become one with the machine, and he goes down into the forbidden archives of the of Mars, and they find him ripping all of the bionics off of him because he saw what was happening. And the story is about loss of humanity. That's what it is. You lost your humanity. You are no longer human. You are beyond the thing that you sought out to be. That's the moral of the story. But I love the idea that as they get closer and closer to the machine, they become more and more psychotic, similar to cyberpunk, with cyberpsychosis being the loss of humanity, because that's what cyberpsychosis is. Uh, it's a mental breakdown because of data going into your brain. Well, that's a very simplified version of what cyberpsychosis is. There's a thousand different things that could be, and I would love to talk about cyberpunk in the future. Like if we have a Fourth of July, not a Fourth of July, a joke episode, we're just gonna do Lorebeards, but it's going to be cyberpunk. The whole time. But jokes
I
aside,
would talk about cyber. We actually covered it on Lorebeards and role playing. We talked a little bit about the role playing game,
oh god, it's
Cyberpunk
so
Red.
good. It's so good.
And we can even make it anime beards, because then we can talk about all the anime influences on and influences by cyberpunk.
Yep,
Which is huge.
cyberbeards, hell yeah. But
Cyber anime beards.
I think the closer you get to the machine, there is a point where you lose yourself. And the stronger the tech priest is, the more that they can become machine like. But the second they go beyond that, they see the true horror of what they've done to themselves.
Well, you can see this in the characters that are the most uh, augmented. They become emotionally remote and physically monstrous, but they keep their like ambitions. You know, the idea, the desire for control or revenge or fear or acquisition. Call is a arguably a Frankenstein monster of various different minds and bodies all in one, who is just barely functional in some cases. Whereas Thulia, like we talked about her, she is so single-minded, she's almost become a machine in her own thinking.
Yep.
Right. So I think you can make the argument that it is not a liberation, it is a corruption of the human spirit.
Yeah.
If not, and certainly of the body, because you're getting rid of the body.
And imagine if the Void Dragon is the thing that they saw. Like, oh, you've just enslaved yourself to a Xenos god.
Maybe that's when you upload your consciousness at the machine altar, maybe that's where it's going.
Or maybe you're just sacrificing your soul to a god that's eating it.
We know the Satan eats souls.
Yep.
And if the Void Dragon is a Satan, I mean, we're tinfoil hats, to be clear. This is all speculation, but
yeah.
Now
We do know that Belisarius Cawl got a piece of the Void Dragon from Mars and traded it to Inquisitor Draxus. So, there was a Void Dragon on Mars. Maybe it's not there anymore. How fucking crazy would that be if Cawl unleashed it on the galaxy?
You're killing me.
Now, I do want to talk about the connect. Whoa, I went all fuzzy. What the heck? Are you going to work?
There you go.
Okay. So the connection with the Votan and the Mechanicus.
There's a fan theory. There's a great fan theory that says the Votan are actually the men of iron who are hiding, and the Votan are biological camouflage.
I personally think that the men of iron are the men of iron, the iron kin. And the Votan are the men of rock.
Oh, the Men of Stone? Oh,
Men of stone, yeah.
huh.
Because of the rock-like appearance that they have.
Oh, well, the vote that's the kin, not the
Yeah.
Votan.
I think the kin are the men of stone.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah, it makes you
That's
think, doesn't it?
interesting.
Now,
Yeah.
I think that the tech priesthood has an original Votan. So for those of you that don't know, a Votan is a thinking AI computer, supercomputer that is gargantuan. And this thing can think for itself. It is abominable intelligence. It has cogitators that you can connect anything to it. But the tech priesthood feeds all of their information into one system, specifically one type of system. And this might be a Votan that they feed all of their information into. And the more that this Votan specifically, if it is a Votan, started them on the quest of knowledge. So this Votan is obsessed with learning and potentially even reaching out to fellow kindred because it has been long since abandoned on Mars. That being said, the other connection that they have to the Votan is very similar weapons. Even conversion beam technology versus ionization weapons, very similar in terms of how they're described working. Granted, the both of them have weapons that make absolutely no sense, like the mole mortar and the black hole gun,
The mole
which
mortar is so cool that it gets to
yeah,
exist anyway.
yes, exactly. But the fact that, the Mechanicum have a dimensional banishing grenade that they're not mass producing
Void
and
grenades.
a and a fucking artillery gun that fires black holes at enemies, and sometimes they put them in cyclonic torpedoes and fire black holes at their enemies.
The Speranza can do that specifically.
Yes. We do know that others have done it in the past, but it's not a piece of technology that they have available to all ships, but they could. Um, Now, that being said, we do know that not the Ironkin, but the Servantkin, that the is it the Brokir use? I think it's the
Yeah, the
Brokir.
cogs. The cogs. Yeah.
Yeah, they use a type of servitor that is very similar, but not a slave, not a slave TM, uh, where it's affectionately looks like a Castellan robot, acts like a Castellan robot because it needs programming, and has a lot of similarities between it because it carries out very simple operations. There's also their ships are very similar. The Votan ships move by a moving gravity, where the Arc Mechanicus alters gravity of worlds that it's next to because it's so fucking big. Uh,
Well, the Speranza does. Yeah.
the Speranza, yeah.
The Speranza is
It's
a very special ship, which is it's got to be stated numerous times.
yes, yes. But we do know that there's multiple Arc Mechanicus out there, and some of them might be similar because they all have a similar look to them, but they are not the same ship. That
Correct.
they do not follow STC constructs. Um, that's the connection that I have between the two. I think the two of them started out extremely connected to one another, and the kin might have been created by the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Adeptus Biologus, more specifically, as a way of adapting thanks to the Votan that they're using, and then they sent them as colonies out into the greater galaxy and then lost contact with them.
I don't know. I don't think the timing works for the Mechanicus to have created the kin. I think it would have been pre Mechanicus era.
It would have been pre-Mechanicus, but it would have still been when they had techno barbarians on Mars.
Okay. It's not out of the question to suggest they had some influence or involvement in
Yeah.
that project. Let's put it that way. But the idea of a Votan on Mars, I don't know about that either, because supposedly we have a whole episode on Leagues of Votan, by the way. You should go check it out. The
It has
Votans,
my fiance in it.
that's right. The Votans specifically are breaking down because they're absorbing too much data, right?
Yep.
And if one has been active on Mars, absorbing all the Mechanicus data, you would think that thing would have gone absolutely crazy
Well,
a long, long time ago, which maybe
does
it
that
did.
Does that not explain the Mechanicum?
But again, the timing doesn't necessarily work out, because in the real world, the lore for the Votan was only created about
like 6 years ago.
Yeah, like 6 years ago. Less than that. Well, no, probably at least concepted and developed at least within 6 years. And the Mechanicus has been around for decades, so maybe.
Yeah, it could have been a proto Votan.
Maybe. I got one for you though. This is a great fan theory, and actually one I kind of ascribe to. It's the idea that the Mechanicus does innovate. They do it all the time. They just use different terminology for it. Okay, and it's the vocabulary.
God damn it.
Because so what can happen is, right, an innovator does something new. He's like, oh, I've tried something out and it works. Great. I will tell everybody that I have rediscovered an ancient pattern of tech, or it's a local variation from my forge world that is acceptable, because that is definitely acceptable. Or I am interpreting the sacred technical scripture in a slightly different way that my particular version of the machine cult is okay with.
Similar to the Land Raider Crusader.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is even controlled experiments that are authorized by a particular Magos or a council in a forge. And you wanted to talk about a specific forge world that does this a lot.
Nope. Well, I wanted to talk about Metallica.
No, you wanted to talk about the other one, the one, what was the name of it? It's your favorite forge world, the one that does all the weird stuff.
Oh, Stygian 8.
Stygian 8. You wanted to talk about that. So
yes.
The theory that the Mechanicus secretly innovates is kind of interesting to me, because it does feed into the Stygian 8 idea. Why don't you, for the lore seekers, why don't you explain what Stygian 8 is and why they're interesting and important and cool?
So Stygian 8 is a forge world that is not trusted by any other members of the Mechanicus, and typically they're kept at arm's length because they tend to work with a lot of Xenos technologies, like a ton. They go out of their way to get Xenos technology because they are Xenos experts. They're also Xenophiles. The crazy thing about them is that while other forge worlds reject a lot of the Xenos technology, Stygian 8, Xenorites. Yeah, sorry, Victor. You butt. Anyway, unlike a lot of the other forge worlds, they don't have as dogmatic a view on alien technology, because their quest for knowledge states that they must understand the enemy's technology to destroy the enemy, and they're not above retro engineering it, which is how somebody like Belisarius Call can get certain pieces of war gear working. But they're definitely not Xenos technology. No. It's Imperial technology, and he discovered it. But yeah, Stygian 8 is also really cool because they have black cloaks and everything, and they have the red on their shoulders and everything. They're really cool. I'm actually, the entire painting commission that I have for Mechanicus right now is Stygian 8.
Yeah, the Xenorites are a faction, a cult, a sect, if you will, of the Mechanicus that says, hey, Xenos tech is actually great and we should study it more. Although we did bring up something that we do need to talk about, which is the quest for knowledge, right? This is a central religious and intellectual mission of the Adeptus Mechanicus. It is a collective and personal effort to recover and preserve and understand and ultimately reunite all knowledge in order to comprehend, to better understand and commune with the machine god and the Omnissiah. Now, we talked about how those are different things. Like the Omnissiah is more like a Messiah, right? Like that's
yeah.
In the Christian analogy, it's the Jesus Christ, to the machine god being Jehovah, if you want to look at it that way. But so a tech priest who explores a new region of space and charts a new star system, or repairs an ancient reactor, or finds a lost data fragment, that is part of their worship. That is part of the quest for knowledge. They are kind of eternally curious, which is a weird counterintuitive thing, because it goes against the idea that they shouldn't innovate and that the tech that they have is pure and sacred. But this is, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. They also do use the quest for knowledge as a justification for spending lives, archaeotech,
Hmm.
uh, destroying entire planets, enslaving entire populations.
It's a version of manifest destiny, is what it is.
Hmm.
It is a philosophical concept that is a pretext for doing all kinds of awful and awful things, colonizing worlds, expanding their influence. It's really just a reason to gather more power for themselves. But they cloak it in the language that makes it the idea that the knowledge itself is divine,
Yep.
and that the omnissiah knows and comprehends all things. It is an all-seeing, all-knowing being. So the adherence of the quest for knowledge, which is it is a very widespread thing within the Mechanicus. So the guys who follow the quest for knowledge, they seek out any kind of lost fragments of truth, data, information, technology, anywhere that is scattered across the galaxy, but they tend to focus on the remnants of humanity's dark age technology. Their archaeotech is a big thing with them.
What's funny is
And
they wouldn't get along with Gilliman during the heresy, where he obliterated an entire planet of human technology because
oh
they
god,
worship the war.
right?
Yep.
So for the Mechanicus people that follow this, the tech adepts and whatnot, the quest for knowledge is considered far more important than almost anything else. Human life, wealth, political ambition, those things are secondary to the quest for knowledge. And it mostly leads them to like these guys that go absolutely crazy for STC systems or fragments or pieces. Those guys are adherents to the quest for knowledge.
Hmm.
Archaeotechnologists, quest for knowledge. Explorators are part of the quest for knowledge. A lot of those guys that go dig up Necron tomb worlds, mine. Those guys are part of the quest for knowledge. Typically, explorators are the most visible, dedicated servants of this philosophy, this mindset. And explorators are tech priests like Pasquale from Road Trader, the role playing game. They leave their forge worlds to explore unfamiliar regions. They investigate ruins. They find new things to exploit for the Imperium and the Machine God, which is why they get along great with rogue traders who also like to exploit things, just mostly
Yep.
for themselves, not necessarily for the Imperium. But there are entire fleets. There are explorator fleets that can include all of the various combat and military forces that we've already described. And like a typical expedition might be like, okay, hey, we're gonna go. We found an ancient human signal, so we're gonna go see what that is, and then we're gonna form an explorator fleet. We're gonna survey it. We're gonna fight off any defenders or environmental hazards, recover anything we can find, analyze it, and decide whether to preserve it or reproduce it or weaponize it, or just say this is way too dangerous to exist. Although that is a very rare thing. Most of the time, they are not that smart to say that this is too dangerous to exist.
Yeah, they kind of just poke and prod at things until it explodes.
So it's counterintuitive because the Mechanicus is not about scientific things. It treats knowledge as sacred property, right? It
Yeah.
believes that knowledge belongs to the Mechanicus and no one else.
Which is so here's the funny thing, Ross. We do know that Imperial Guardsmen know how to repair their vehicles.
They
To
have
an extent.
to an extent. Yeah, I would caution you against thinking like they can have a motor pool and just like fix everything. They can fix some minor things, but
No, like
not everything.
they can retread their tanks if needed.
Well, retreading tanks is definitely that is
Yeah.
The,
But they're not
the
like
tech priests got really
repairing the
tired of doing
engine.
that because it happens all the fucking time. I was a tanker in the United States Army. I can tell you that stuff happens all the time.
Yeah. But if a tech priest saw them doing that, that would be tech heresy. Now,
It again depends on the forge world, but it would certainly be. They would certainly see that as encroachment on their territory and be like, "Hey, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. I'm the only one allowed to do that."
what extent of technology that the average guardsman, well, let's say tanker guardsman understands about their tank, where do you think you would draw the line?
Tough call because there's so many different regiments and the way
Let's
they.
go with Cadian.
Okay, Cadian, specifically Cadians. Okay, that's helpful.
Yes.
I would say Cadians probably understand basic maintenance rights. They know how to replace the tank treads, keep the oil topped up, make sure all the ball bearings are greased. Basic stuff.
Hmm.
I don't think they understand how the power plant works.
No, because
I think
it's
it's mentioned in Fear to Tread and Demolisher that one of their guys knowing how to bypass certain things on the power plant is considered very dangerous knowledge, for example.
yeah.
Um, but being able to identify something that's broken, they probably can do that. They can be like, "Oh, that's not right. That's broken."
It's also very weird that that the Lehman Russ. Let's go with the Lehman Russ. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the Lehman Russ uses a an all fuel intake and then burns it in an almost nuclear reactor because sure, why not? Uh, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but sure, it uses promethium, burns it, and then somehow is also a reactor because reasons. Sure.
It's
We're not gonna.
essentially diesel. I mean, that's the bottom line. Is it's basically diesel.
It's supposed to be diesel, but it's
It's also jet
40K.
fuel. It's also flamer fuel. It's a
Yeah,
very adaptable
but the way
diesel.
that the Lehman Russ's engine is described is it's also a reactor, which doesn't
Yeah,
make a lot of sense.
I
Uh,
mean, it's
Granted,
yeah,
one well-placed Molotov obliterates that tank, but
worth
that's
it's
all
it's
tanks in general.
it's worth saying there are so many different patterns of Lehman Russ that some of them might run on ethanol and some might run on promethium and some might have electric engines. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
some might have
depends.
a thermal nuclear engine inside it and run forever.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I would say that they know how to do maintenance on their engine. Like they can slap that bitch and get it working. I don't think they can repair the engine. I think they could, look at a few wires that are broken and just like mess around with them and tape them together and be like, yeah, this is good. Um, I think I would put the put it at they know the ammunition, they know how to use it, they know the ammunition against the best enemy, they know how to move their tank, they know how to quickly turn their tank, even though it shouldn't turn that fast. They know not to sing the rights at all times when doing things.
Or that
I
you
would
don't
say
have
that
to.
yeah, I would say that once it comes to the tank breaking down because of an internal engine problem, that's when they abandon the tank.
Usually,
Yeah.
usually. Again, it gets very nuanced with all the different regiments and
Yeah. Yeah,
emplacements
of
and
course.
tech priests and all those things. Okay, I got one more fun fact that I need to make sure and be clear about.
Yep,
Uh,
and then we have a couple of super chats to read.
right, and then we'll probably segue into our closing. But um, something that you guys need to be aware of is that hexadecimals are very important to the Mechanicus. If you look at the cogs on any individual cog for the machine cult, it's usually 16 teeth or 8 if it's a half cog. This is related to the Quest for Knowledge, which has 16 uh, parts basically, and they have 16 kind of universal laws for the cult Mechanicus. So next time you look at a tech priest model and you're curious, do a count of the cogs on it. Now, sometimes this is I think it was at one point 12 as well as 16. So sometimes it may be 12, but often, especially with the 30K stuff, I believe it's 16. So
Okay.
something to keep in mind and check out because it is hexadecimal. This was told to be directly by Games Workshop guys that most people miss this and most people don't notice it. So here's a thing you can stump all your friends with at your next 40K tournament and talk about how many cogs are on the wheels because it is a fun part of the whole Mechanicus bit. Let's look at those super chats, shall we?
There is one more thing I want to bring up really quickly.
Okay.
Do you know how tech priests resist demons?
How?
Okay, so normally you use the power of faith and all this other stuff. They can use the power of their faith within the Omnissiah, but they could also blast that demon with so much knowledge that the demon destabilizes itself. They, you can
That's
blast
my
it with
goal when I go to
pi.
hell. When I go to hell, I promise I will make sure the demons are distracted by all my 40K knowledge. I'll just sit there and tell them everything I know about it.
Exactly. My whole thing is that if I'm in an afterlife and everything, I'm gonna be playing D&D.
There you go. That's another good way to distract the demons. Sean DeWolf. Thank you, Sean DeWolf. Good seeing you. He says, have the Mechanicus experts memorize the train schedule to and from Nottingham, England on Terra for the next 52 weeks, asking for the most ancient of autists. First time caller, long time listener. I'll take my question off the air. Man, awesome. Thank you so much for supporting us with the super chat. Appreciate you.
I don't even think the Mechanicum and all of their collective knowledge can get those trains on time.
I have been to Nottingham 3 times, actually. Ricky Chapman, he's our local RPG enthusiast. I always like to hear about his campaign. He says, we played a tech priest from Stygius 8. We discovered a better plasma gun in a ruined hive. It was highly accurate and totally wasn't Tau in origin.
All right. I find interesting
Eldar are still the kings of plasma tech. Star cannons are amazing, but Tau are getting there.
Do you know what I love about Tau plasma specifically?
What's that?
Did you know it didn't have overheat for the longest time? And it was always 1 point weaker than Imperial technology?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that they built in safeguards. That's why it was
weaker.
It was weaker, but it didn't get hot.
Yeah.
So
I always thought that was funny.
All right, so we're in our last 5 minutes here. Alexis, final thoughts on the Mechanicus, and where can people find you on the internet?
Okay, so my final thoughts on the Mechanicus is, I think the Mechanicus, the Mechanicum, the Mechanicus, and the Adeptus Mechanicus are some of the last bastions of satire in Warhammer 40k. They are, at first glance, incredibly silly. And at first glance, you see them as cowboys, and Leonardo da Vinci meets body horror, but in a very silly way. Like, you could see Adeptus Mechanicus models wearing cowboy hats. They walk around with wooden guns and M1 Garands that shoot irradiated, hyper-accelerated bullets at each other, where they have this hyper-advanced technology that's also super underdeveloped. Like, they grow trees on Mars, not on the surface, but underneath the surface of Mars, just to make sure their guns have wood on them, because that's what they believe that was better.
It was important.
Yeah. And it's so silly. And then you look more into it and you see the fact that a lot of their lore is about how no matter how far into the machine cult they go and how far they try to separate themselves from humanity as possible, the thing that keeps them going is the indomitable human spirit. And then you look for a third time and you realize that they are just way sillier than you expected, but also really, really cool and the most expensive army in Warhammer 40k. Hands down, the most expensive army in Warhammer 40k.
If you include Titans and Knights, absolutely. No question about it.
Like, I love them. I think they're great. They're a lot of fun to fight. Their army requires you to have 4-digit IQ. And you need to have, like, you're going to have a great time playing them if you understand them. If Victor stands out in the open again and gets shot, I'm going to laugh at him. He didn't listen to me during our practice game, and I told him multiple times, hide your stuff. There's a Titan on the other side, and he died. It was a Knight. Just taking pot shots at him. I absolutely love the Mechanicus. I think they are great. I love anything cyberpunk related. The Mechanicus is just cyberpunk in 40k settings, but a little bit, actually, about as dark. To be honest, it's about the same level of dark.
Servitors are super dark. Holy shit.
Yeah. I absolutely love them. I think they're great. What are your closing thoughts on them?
No, I think the whole thing, their faith is contradictory. The whole thing is a contradiction. They aspire to the purity and dispassion of the machine, but they keep all of that faith and obsession and ambition of their humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Their theology is revering knowledge and progress in the abstract sense, but in practice, it's all about rigid, unchanging dogma. And they treat scientific advancement as a religious ritual rather than some kind of open inquiry. And this whole contradiction plays out even up to the highest levels, like the clash between Call and Thulia, right? Because Call is about research, diplomacy, and advancement, and Thulia is like warfare is the only truest expression of the machine god's will. Both of these extremes are actually essential to the Imperium's survival, okay? Because without the tech priesthood, the Imperium would collapse, and without the Imperium, the Mechanicus would crumble. They rely on each other, and it's like you said. I think you really got it all out there. They're fascinating in their contradictions. They're fascinating in their mysteries and pageantry. They remind me of a lot of like the hermetic magic of the older like 19th century, 18th and 19th century, where it was all about these, very occultish rituals and symbology and all these things. It's all of that, but steampunk and cyberpunk and grimdark
And
and like
cowboys.
and cowboys. It's a huge mishmash, but it somehow works. It's lightning in a bottle, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Where can people find you on the internet, Alexis?
Weirdly enough, the only thing I don't think fits is the electro priests. Like that's the only thing I don't see fitting.
Oh, I think they do fit actually, but oh well.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But anyway, you can find me under this name over here. It's Norn Queen Alexis. I am on all sorts of things. I post YouTube videos. I do Twitch streaming every now and then when I remember. I stream on a whole bunch of platforms. If you want to see my Viking stuff, go over to my TikTok. If you want to see cute pictures, you go over to my Instagram. Speaking of cute pictures, Ross, where do they find you?
Wow, thank you for that. I appreciate that. You can find me at twitch.tv/TheRossWatson. I am down to like once a week at the moment, but also you can find me. I have a Patreon in the comments if you want to see some really great RPG content, and if you want to check out some of our random tables for creating Eldari Craft World, and I will be uploading more from our Let's Build episodes in the future. So you can find all sorts of cool exclusive material on my Patreon. Oh, we got a last second super chat. Syndicalist Wallflower. Woots,
Great
caught
name.
the stream barely. Update on my Only War Chaos Cult game. The players have stolen a dang Arbites Rhino and have used it to rob a bank. Now that is ironic. And I love it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you, Syndicalist Wallflower. All right, we will catch you guys again on Wednesday. Oh, we need to announce the winner of Wednesday's poll, don't we?
Yes.
And
what was it?
It is going to be. I've got it actually.
Okay. I trust you.
Yep. It's going to be a tier list of the Sororitas orders is what won.
Ooh.
So check out our tier list on Sororitas orders coming up on Wednesday. Right after this show airs, there should be a poll, I think, for next Saturday. If not, it's Latara Saren because she's been deferred. So it's either there will be a poll after this, or we'll be talking about Latara Saren next Saturday. But anyway, go vote or go look at it and see if there's a vote. It's on the YouTube channel. Click on posts, and then you will see the poll there. You can vote on it. Anyway, in case you've enjoyed this deep dive into the grim darkness of the far future, we would appreciate it if you would hit like and subscribe so that the algorithm can spread our heresy to even more unsuspecting minds. Alexis, what's the time for?
So, remember everyone, in the grim darkness of the far future,
there is only lore.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Okay. Bye-bye.